Well, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Flight Deck Sim live stream today, the 22nd of June 2021. It's 33 minutes past 4 in the afternoon. My oh my, what have we got for you in store today? Back in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today we're jumping into the eagerly anticipated PMDG DC6 Cloudmaster. My channel, if you remember rightly, started on PMDG's projects. Their excellent PMDG 737 NGX, which I had back for FSX. I haven't flown any of their products since I moved to X-Plane 11. And boy, oh boy, I bought this yesterday, and I've already logged about 14 hours on this aircraft, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Today we're in South Africa. We're in Port Elizabeth. I know it's been renamed recently, but I'm going to stick with Port Elizabeth because I can't pronounce its new name. We're going to be flying westbound to Cape Town. Beautiful flights along the south coast of South Africa. I've got the Orbex Cityscape scenery installed, so thank you very much to Orbex for sending me a copy of that as well. Flight time in the region of around 1 hour 30 minutes until we go overhead Cape Town. And we're going to fly an instrument arrival that's going to take us right across downtown Cape Town, right over, well, I say right over, just right next to Table Mountain. We're live weather. We're running the sim 6 hours behind live time, so right now in the sim I think it's 11:30 local compared to whatever it would be right now in Cape Town, so 6 hours behind live time as well. Yeah, it's going to be absolutely awesome. Purchased the aircraft, as I said yesterday, and it's just been awesome. Anyway, here we are in Port Elizabeth. We're completely offline for this one, just so I can show you everything about this excellent aircraft. We're going to be utilising the AFE. They have an automated flight engineer because I still have so much to learn about this aircraft. But this is the great thing about this product. It has this automated flight engineer which will help you manage the engines in various phases of flight so you can do what's important, which is fly the airplane. I mean, just straight away you can already see the external model is absolutely beautiful. We'll just go here. Just going to turn the old camera down here a little bit. Let's put the drone speed back to the default setting of 4%, but have a look at this. There was only one livery I was ever going to take with this. It had to be the Pan Am livery, the coolest airline to have ever existed. The Clipper Liberty Bell, our call sign today, Clipper 1 I thought we'd go with. We've got all the doors out. I've not touched anything except put it in the cold and dark setup here, but it's all shiny. Someone's been buffing the aluminium there. We've got the ground crew in awe of this fantastic aircraft here. There can't be many of these flying around. I know Red Bull have one over in, is it Salzburg? Somewhere in Austria, but yeah, look at this, absolutely beautiful. I'm guessing this was a real aircraft that Pan Am owned and operate there. But you can see the sun reflecting in the elevators, the rudders, with the rear stairs installed there. But yeah, I'll do my absolute best to do a sort of tutorial flight. I've done 4 practice sectors on this very first sector, on this very flight. The first flight I did, I had engine failures, engine overheating. I'm going to have complex engine management on for this stream. I had issues with all sorts of things, issues for my own doing. The actual aircraft was fine, and the last 2 flights went reasonably fine. But yeah, we're going to be flying IFR today. No GPS, VOR navigation. We're going to try and do a parallel entry hold when we get there, and fly with as realistically conditions as possible. But anyway, let's position ourselves near the stairs, clamber on into the cockpit. There we are. You can put your head round there. Oh, look at that. Straight into the there we are, cockpit. I think you just about saw my legs there. There we go. So here we got here in chat today. I spent so long talking about the aircraft. I'll say hello to anyone that's here. John, does it have GPS out of interest? Yes, there is an option to have GPS selected. Trish says, love the Safa takeover in chat. I guess a lot of South Africans will be very interested in watching this flight today. Good afternoon to all my South African friends as well. Domino Messina, yes, the Red Bull have their DC6 in Salzburg. Very, very cool. Hello, Frontier18 YouTube. I hope you're doing well. Christopher, at least the flight engineer is flying in his home country today. I guessed he was South African. He does definitely have a South African accent. Ah, that's fantastic. Well, let's just imagine it's Jim. I said Jim. It's South Africa for a couple of years. He's picked up a little bit of accent, and Jim, our virtual flight officer / engineer, is going to be looking after today. He's going to be far more competent operating this aircraft than I will be. Jessica, I assume like the A300 will be testing DC6's inverted performance, quite possibly. Radial engines, really hard to maintain and look after. You've got to really treat them with respect, and they've really done a good job modelling these engines. They can be very complex to manage, and we'll discuss all these things we've got to do today. Look at all the features that come with this aircraft. Trista's here. He says, FAPE, my favourite home airport, flew today from there. It's called the Windy City, Captain. Right, we are using live weather, and Microsoft Flight Simulator's live weather's a lot better now. It's nice here right now, 2006 knots, clear skies, 18 degrees It's cleared up in Cape Town as well. We are going to be live weather for this flight today. Right, so I've said a hello to a few of you. Let's crack on with the rest of the flight here. So just turn this music right down there, just for a little bit of background music. So really, the great thing about this PMDG aircraft is you've got this little iPad here, and it has a lot of features to kind of assist with you operating this aircraft. So if we have a look here at the ramp manager, you have all these external items which you connect. At the moment I have a little GPU connected. Well, it's not like a GPU I've ever seen. It looks like a car battery, but you see we have some ability to power the aircraft externally. You can have engine oil pans, pitot covers, wheel chocks, all these things you connect here. I've got all the doors open. For this flight, I've loaded 32 passengers out of the 68 capacity, so about half full. And fuel-wise, I've just simply gone for set fuel for 50%. That gives us an endurance, I think, around 5 hours or so, more than enough for this sector. And it keeps the weights within sort of limits for the entire flight as well. So the fuel and passengers are loaded here. We're going to push the before start flow shortly, and then the flight engineer is going to configure the aircraft ready for engine start. It's really, really nice. This is awesome. This is an engine stress visualizer. So as I mentioned, radial engines are very, you've got to treat them with respect. They are very powerful. These ones I think are capable of producing like 1400 horsepower or something like that. They've got superchargers as well. And if you misuse them, you can overheat, overpressurize things. You'll see during various phases of flight, we'll make reference to this. Thankfully, we have this fantastic virtual flight engineer who'll manage the engines for pretty much most of the phases here, but there will be times where I have to set power manually, and we need to carefully monitor these systems. Instead of having to rely on the instruments, we'll try and translate what the gauges are saying from what's being said here, but we've got to be careful with oil pressures and head temperatures, all those sort of things there. Now, maintenance manager, I do want to click on this because every time I fly a new flight, I make sure everything is fully serviceable. You see, look, I've logged 14 hours flying around with this, probably 4 hours that was sat on the ground. So I'm going to repair all the engines. They're brand new. Look, service the props, and top up the oil for all the engines here. Make sure we have water, alcohol, auxiliary, anti-ice fluid is all topped up there. Perfect, just like new. Option wise, realistic engine damage is on today, so I'm going to be really careful managing these engines whenever the automatic flight engineer is not doing it. Realistic start I've actually got off. The reason is the engineer won't get the aircraft configured for the number 3, the first engine you start, without that being selected on. Carb icing, I'm going to turn that off for the first time. I promise you on future flights we'll turn a few things on here. CB failures off as well. I don't want any CBs popping on my first flight, and autopilot engagement is on a little bit easier as well. Look at this, there's a circuit breaker panel here, just as an example. Look, they're all modelled. These will pop as well, and I think if you pull the circuit breaker to open, you'll isolate that system as well. It's pretty cool. Berlin flight, alcohol for Jim. No, I think that's alcohol. I think I was looking in the manual here. The carburetor icing, you've got 2 ways of dealing with that. The conventional carburetor heat controls, or I think you can actually add alcohol into it to remove ice. I think that's to do with that system, perhaps there. Connie, how long will the flight be? We'll be overhead Cape Town an hour and 30 minutes, but the flight time will be an hour 45, hour 50, because I want to do a flyby of Table Mountain and all that sort of stuff there. Cool, so that's it. Now let's get the engineer getting the aircraft configured for takeoff. Now what I want to do is get the engine started and allow them to get to temperature, because the oil will be very cold, the oil pressure will be high. We need to get the oil warmed up, and whilst that's going on, we'll set up for the departure here. So here we go. I want you to see this. It's amazing. So press before start. There we are. You can see he's moving the switches, turning the batteries on, seatbelt signs on, inverters, master power switches. It's fantastic. Now in time I'd quite like to learn to do this myself.
Voice recorder.
And then they run through a little checklist, or listen into this.
Oil coolers and cow flaps.
Welcome.
Hold to end position. Fuel and fluids.
Gamer, how many FPS do I get? About 30 in the cockpit, 50 outside.
Sit. Manifold and duct pressure. Checked. Radios.
So he's turning all the radios on now, look. No GPS today, we've got the Benedict's
Checked.
radios set on.
Doors and hatches.
I'll now close the doors and hatches. Pretty cool, isn't it? Hope it's not real-time weather, raining here in Cape Town there. It is, Mike, might have some drizzle. We'll discuss whether we turn that off later to view the
Door warning
scenery.
lights. Out. Gear pins. Removed. 3 on board. Seat belts and pedals. Adjusted. Throttles.
See how he's moving all the throttles?
Set to idle. Propellers.
That's the pitch,
Forward and
propeller pitch lever. You can control all four pitch for all four propellers using that lever.
Before start checks complete.
There we are. Now
Start engines.
the aircraft's now configured, ready for the engine start. So before we do that, you'll see here he's put the engine 3 mixture to auto rich. We'll need to do that for the next engine start. So we've got fuel, we've got electricity by putting the magnetos on. We'll start the engines here. You have an engine start selector as well, and we also got the low boost fuel pump on as well to ensure there's fuel pressure to ignite that engine there. So we're going to start the engines shortly. Just want to show you a little bit about where we are and where we're going. We'll brief the departure shortly. So I have got Navigraph running here in the background. There we are. So let's put the world map on here. So we're in Port Elizabeth. We'll be taking off from runway 26 here. We'll be making a right turn once we get 1,000 feet AGL, and we'll be intercepting this radial outbound on this uniform Alpha 402 radial, so 296 radial, and then we're going to be flying VOR the entire way. So we're going to go over the George VOR, then outbound on this next radial towards the Caledon VOR, overhead Cape Town towards Robben Island, which is where Nelson Mandela was kept for many, many years, and we'll be doing either a parallel entry into the hold, or I might just do a little 180 here and then outbound towards Cape Town, and then we'll fly down with 01. But we'll discuss all that later. That's about the navigation. We'll do a little bit of a departure briefing shortly, but for now, I'd like to get the engine started if we're all ready to go here. Rick, who needs a wet compass when there is a bungee cord around? I guess you're regarding to this. I think that just stops it from jumping up and down. Not sure though. Taylor, how high are we going? Going to be cruising at flight level 100 today. However, looking at the tops of the clouds, I did a test sector earlier. That put me right in cloud in an icing condition, so I might do a step climb later. The aircraft's pressurised, and I've been playing with the pressurisation system here as well. I think you can pretty much go all the way up to 16,000 feet. Above that, you need to start using the supercharger to increase your manifold pressure to ensure that you have sufficient power during the climb. Right, so let's get these engines started. So I'm just referring here to the tutorial, which I just have been following, throughout the test sectors, but I think I'm all ready to go, know what to do. So we have the mixture set to auto rich. We need to turn the main fuel booster pump to low. This is what Jim, our engineer, has been doing, so that's set to low, and now we're ready to start it. So what we do, we'll start the engines. Jim will start counting how many times the blades go past his window. Once it's gone past the 12th time, we put the boost in prime, and then the engine should fire up. Shall we give it a whirl? Let's try it.
3, 6, 9, 12.
So boost, prime. It's quite hard to see from the cockpit, but there we are. Engine number 3 started. Simple as that. Right, I've not flown a radial engine aircraft before, but from my piston engine days, make sure we have oil pressure within 30 seconds. Looks like the oil pressure's rising quite high because the oil's probably quite cold. You see the oil temperature's increasing as well. We've got to wait a while for the oil to sort of get above 40 degrees before we want to start adding lots of power. Right, now let's start engine number 4. That's the next one we need to do in sequence. So mixture to auto rich. So we've got fuel. Now we need a spark. So magneto to both. We need to turn on the low fuel boost pump to low. We need to select the starter to engine number 4. Now let's start engine number 4.
3,
Oops, didn't want to do
6,
that.
9, 12.
Hope that didn't cause any problems. There we are, number 4 started. I wouldn't stand there, love. A little bit close. Matthew, you've got to love this plane. With this sim, I think I'm going to be flying around the world in it. No GPS, of course, because you've got to fly this plane properly. It's exactly what we're doing today. Right, engine number 4 then. So, still getting used to everything here. So oil pressure's fine, within limits. Oil temperature's slowly warming up on engine number 3. That will also increase on engine number 4 as well. Now let's start engine number 2. So auto rich. So we've got fuel, electricity, and we've got pressure, and then selectors number 2.
3, 6,
Joe, love the shaking, it's so authentic.
12.
Boost prime. There we we are. Engine number 2. Oil pressure's risen within limits. The oil temperature obviously increase here. Obviously we have oil pressure low lights on at the moment. But you can see they're above the minimum required amount of pressure. And now lastly, starting engine number 1. Mixture. So rich. Spark. Select it to 1. And low pressure. Let's do it. I'll try and jump outside for this one.
3, 6, 5, 12.
Boost, prime. There we go. Listen to that sound. Do you know what this reminds me of? Who's seen the film Memphis Belle? You know, just before they take off to go bomb Germany. That sound. Awesome. So engine number 1, we have oil pressure. Look at the jumping. It's so cool. Oil pressure, oil temperature is increasing. You see already on engine number 3 and 4, the oil temperature is approaching the range it needs to be. That'll be cool on engine number 1. But the low oil pressure light has extinguished, which is a good sign. I'll turn the noise down here slightly. Go on, hear myself think. There we are. That's a little bit better here. And now we've got 4 good engine starts. Next we need to get rid of the ground power. So plain battery. And go over here to the ground manager, disconnect the ground power units. And then we'll go to AFE here. He's going to run the after start flow now.
Start selecting bus pumps.
So we need to put the fuel pumps off.
Off and off. Battery switch.
Battery switch to battery.
Plain battery. Generators and inverters.
On.
Check and on. Emergency lights. Armed. Ground power. Removed.
Amazing.
After start check is complete.
There we are, so the after start checklist is complete. We're ready to taxi out. Now, one of the things which is missing here, which would be really cool to have, I hope they add it, is the ability for the flight engineer to complete the power checks. Now, today, I'm not going to complete the power checks because I took a look at PMDG's tutorial about it, and it takes around, well, my first attempt, 25 minutes. I'm still learning a lot about radial engines, so I don't know exactly what I'm checking. You've got the usual stuff like pressures and temperatures, but things like you've got to check the governor. I think there's superchargers, all sorts of other things you need to check as well. I'll be skipping that today. I am going to learn to do it on future streets for sure, but if they can add that as a feature, that would be really cool to be able to see that here. Now, if we go here to the engine stress visualizer, now if you remember we started engine number 3 first and 4, you can already see the oil temperature is now within limits. We're still waiting for engine 2 and engine 1 just to increase a little bit. There's engine 2 going green and engine number 1 oil. Now I played around with this. Really, you cannot abuse these engines. If you put too much power on, you can get to high stress range, then you have red for catastrophic stress range, and you can start damaging the engines. And trust me, I've done a few test flights and I've had engine failures as well. Now in this sort of aircraft back in the day, the engines were nowhere near as reliable as turbofan engines, like we have today on the CFM and the General Electrics, etc. And from what I've understood, you know, if an engine fails on the climb out, they just carry on. They're just like, yeah, whatever. They had more than enough power from the 3 remaining engines. Touch wood, we won't have any issues. Now, we're ready to taxi, but I just want to get a few things set up instrument-wise here. So, local QNH is 1012. That is set. The first radial we'll be intercepting is the 296 radial from Port Elizabeth. So, on the CDI, we'll set up 296. Look at this shaking, it's so cool. 296, we'll get the Port Elizabeth VOR tuned up, which is 12.9. Make that active. Definitely something alive. You can see the RMI swinging to point at the VOR. We have DME down here as well, which is really cool. Now, I don't know how to turn up the volume, unfortunately, to identify nav aids. If I select nav 1 here, I can hear it, but it's really, really quiet, and I'm trying to be able to turn it up there, but I can't do it. So that's it for nav aid wise. We're now going to taxi out there. Matthew, as well as a mag check, of course. Yes, that's normal. The normal things you'd do as well. Matthew Presley, just a normal run-up. Check the prop governor by cycling the prop, purging and checking the water injection, and checking the supercharger high blower system. Matthew, I will skip it today, but I will make notes on that. So when we next fly it, I'll definitely get that done. I'm going to have fingers crossed that everything's working as it should be today, but definitely looking ahead in the future. Berlin, from what I've read, the surviving airworthy DC6s require several hours of engine maintenance per flight hour. I can believe it. I can believe it. Right, so we're going to taxi to the hull point. When we're at the hull point, I'll brief the departure. I'll explain exactly what we're going to do, and I will get the AFE to run the before takeoff checklist as well. So, let's just reduce power to idle. Release the parking brake. You might notice that when we go to idle, the low oil pressure light comes on. That's normal. Just go back to sort of a 1000 RPM. Should now be moving. There we go. Awesome. Matthew, does the plane have GPS installed? It is an option. I'm not using GPS today. That's cheating. We're going to be doing proper instrument flying all the way to Cape Town. See the brakes as well. If I start braking, listen to this. Can you hear the brakes squeaking? Probably easier outside. Let's get back up to speed again so you can hear it. It's so cool. Yeah, so we're going to be taking off from runway 26 today, so 26. Just jump out here the camera. There we are. So we're going to go all the way here and backtrack. Not backtrack, sorry, into the runway from the whole point there. Hear the brakes squeaking. It's so awesome. The shaking's only at certain RPMs, just like in the actual plane. It's correct. When you set takeoff power, it sort of harmonises. You get the shaking. It's pretty cool. Toga, did my Frozen ATPL training around Port Elizabeth, Captain, South Africa's Windy City. Someone was calling it the Windy City earlier. Very cool. Not so windy today though. We are live weather. You can see actually what's the temperature at the moment. 20 degrees or something. Really nice. Right here. I think I might have just knocked the volume gauge down a little bit. Hold here. There we are. Perfect. Parking brake is set. There we go. And let me just sort the volume out, guys. I just knocked it down a little bit accidentally. There we go. Rudder trim, yes, that's what that massive tiller-looking thing is. It's taken straight off a submarine, I think. It's installed there, but that's what it's for there. Right, so now we're here at the hull point. We can now run the before takeoff checklist.
Boost pumps.
So I'm just going to set that to low.
Boost pumps on low. Fuel selector and crossfeed. Main tanks and crossfeed off.
So that's it.
Autopilot and carb heat. Off and cold.
We're using the gyropilot later.
Hydraulic system. Down, forward, pressure and quantity checked. Okay. Flaps 20.
So there's the flaps going to 20. Huge yellow flap lever here. Here's the flap gauge. This is flap 20 for takeoff.
Flaps set 20. Windows and turbine. Closed and on. Controls.
So he removes the gust lock now.
Gust lock released. Free.
Of course.
Stirrator. On.
Heater heat's on.
Mixture and cowl flaps. Region locked. Set. Transponder.
It's down here.
On. Landing lights.
It's very cool. So, you know, when you first come to this aircraft, flying it for the first time, it's really reassuring to have this sort of virtual engineer. You know, it's the same as your guy on the right seat doing everything for you. There we are, before takeoff checklist is complete. Now, before we discuss the takeoff, let's talk a little bit of how we're going to depart here. So, navigation-wise, if I bring up Navigraph again for you, just here. There we are. So, we're going to take off from... nope, that's Cape Town. There we go. So we're going to take off from runway 26. Now, the elevation here is around 250 feet odd, I think, or 230 feet. We're going to maintain runway heading until we're at 1,000 feet AGL, so at around 1,200 feet, we'll call it. Once we get to 1,200 feet, if I do the overlay function we come with this map, we'll probably be about here. We're going to make a right turn, right ahead, heading around 330 degrees to intercept 296 outbound from Port Elizabeth. And then we'll intercept that airway going there. We'll be climbing up to flight level 100 as well. So that's going to be our departure. Now let's talk a little bit about the takeoff roll. So the flight engineer has the ability to pretty much set the ground takeoff power. You have two takeoff settings, dry and wet. Wet uses water injection, which puts water into cylinders, get more power out of it. For our gross weight today, I think it says below 87,000 pounds or something around that. We can use the takeoff dry setting. Before I push that, I need to be on the runway with the parking brake set or holding at least on the brakes there. He's going to stabilise the engines and then set takeoff power, full power, which I think 45 inches. I can't remember. We'll monitor the power setting here. They also have this other power setting called BMEP. I was listening to the excellent tutorial videos that was discussing BMEP is sort of an equation using manifold pressure and your RPM to work out how much power is actually being produced, or thrust, or power from the engine there. But we'll be setting takeoff power using the flight engineer. We're going to roll down the runway, check 80 knots. We're going to rotate it around 100 knots. If you want to actually find out your exact speeds, there's a really handy table here. We're going to be using this for landing. Actually, we're using it for takeoff. We're around 85,000 pounds here. So for takeoff, we have, look at these different V1 speeds. I'm not sure what this, oh, sea level, that's what it is. So use the lowest one there. 83 knots, and then V2 104. So it says in the tutorial rotate at 100. It's between V1 and V2. That'll work out well. And we're going to climb out with flap 20 set. Now initially rotate 100 knots. We're then going to pitch for 130 knots until 500 feet. When we get to 500 feet, it's going to set METO power. We're going to lower the nose to the aircraft to accelerate to 140 knots. Once the flight engineer is going to complete the after takeoff checklist and set climb power, we're going to climb at 165 knots, and that's the sort of climb speed this aircraft uses pretty much consistently for all their power settings. We'll discuss all that later. So I hope that sort of makes sense what we're going to do. So far on the test sectors all has worked well, but again, I must apologise, I have never flown a radial powered aircraft. It's been 10 years since I've even flown a piston engine aircraft. It makes you realise how lucky we are these days to have just a jet engine with a thrust lever, with everything working in the background, easy to control all the fuel mixture and air ratios and stuff like that. We just have to set the power. Right, guys, Toga's in chat. Should we go to Cape Town? I hope I haven't forgotten anything. Lining up on the runway. That looks good there. Just get the parking brake set. Come on, Jim. Let's. Well, Jim, you're being really useful today. You can take me to Cape Town. So take off dry.
30 inches stabilized.
So saying 30 inches initially. I'll turn this up slightly for you as well, guys. Set the power. It's usually a bit quicker than that. Usually it's instant. Why is he not set 30 inches? Let me just try one more time, guys.
30 inches stabilized. 30 inches stabilized.
Now what? Now why is it not working? Everyone I've done so far has worked perfectly. Am I going to have to do it manually? Oh dear, in-op. Oh, embarrassing. Release throttle lock. Thank you. Must have knocked that at some point. There you go. You can see the stop shaking there.
30 inches stabilized. Cowl flaps.
Set.
Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps set.
So you set the cowl flaps to take off to make sure the engines stay cool.
Power.
Full power being set now. Now we can get Toga in. Thanks guys, you're going to be really helpful me today.
Well.
Full power set.
Full power set, just to show you quickly, if you have a look here on the engine stress visualizer, temperature's have increased slightly but all within limits. Let's release the parking brake. And off we go. So airspeed's alive. little bit of rudder here to maintain centre line. There's 80 knots. There's around V1. There's 100 knots, rotate, so a little bit of back pressure. And we're airborne. And don't need to raise the gear, the AFE's going to do all this for us. So initially 130 knots. Let the aircraft accelerate to 130. Gears coming up. There's 130 knots, so just pitching up to maintain that speed.
Flaps up. Flaps going up.
Flaps being retracted. There's a 140, a little bit fast, just maintain 130 knots until 500 feet AGL, which is 700 feet.
Meteor power.
So setting Meteor power.
48 inches, 2600
So now we can actually pitch 140 knots. Remember, we're going to climb up to 1200 feet until I start my en route turn. So again, just pitching up slightly just to maintain 140. And when climb power's set, we're going to pitch at 165. There's 1200 feet, so we're going to start that right turn. To intercept that 296 radial discussing. Climb power's coming in now, so I'm going to lower that nose just to accelerate to 165 knots. Heading around 330 degrees to intercept that radial. Just slowly the aircraft accelerate to 165 knots. He's going to do the after takeoff checklist. There's 165, so I'm going to trim for that speed.
After takeoff checks complete.
There we are, he's done. So after takeoff checklist complete, 165 knots. Onto a heading of 330, so I'm looking, can't quite sit at the moment. Here's the heading indicator. There's 330, 165 knots. We're trimmed. Flying really nicely. I'm just waiting for the course deviation indicator to come alive. There's the radial coming in, so once we're established, we'll need to set a heading to stay on the 296 radial. Just go heads down a little bit here so you can see. Beautifully trimmed for 165 knots. We'll start that left turn now. Onto heading at 296. Beautiful. And, oh, I know what I forgot to do. Set the pressurization, but it's not going to be a big deal. We're only going to flight level 100, but we'll set that up in 2 seconds. There we are. Nicely established on the radial. There's 3,000 feet we're passing. Just going to lower that nose slightly to maintain 165 knots. All the parameters in green. Oil temperature's a bit warm, but I'm sure Jim will keep us under control there. And there you go. A bit of turbulence there. What I'm going to utilise now is the gyro pilot. So let me just get it all happy at 165 knots here. Nicely on the radial. So to turn on the gyro pilot, what you need to do is go down here, flick on gyro pilot, which is here. There's the mechanical connection and clutch connected, and now we are controlling pitch using this little wheel here. So basically we're already at 165 knots, let's lock that in, and if I move this switch here to localizer, the aircraft's going to roll to fly on the localizer for us. Now we're pretty much nailed on that there, and basically we're going to leave this power setting until we get up to flight level 100. We're doing 170 knots now, a little bit fast, so what I'm going to do is dial in a couple of turns on this little wheel here. So just watch the vertical speed indicator when I turn this. Just a couple of turns. You see the vertical speed slowly increasing, and when we're back to 165 we can just turn that down a couple. We'll set standard, climbing to flight level 100, 1013. There we are. Sorry chat, I've been so busy. I'll have a look at some of your questions shortly. Just turn the sound down slightly. There we are. Passing 50 for flight level 100. And localizer is engaged. We're tracking outbound from the radial. We'll tune up the next VOR shortly, but you can see here we're now 11 miles away from Port Elizabeth. 4 minutes flight time, 168 knots ground speed. And, I'm 160 knots, so again a couple of turns of that wheel. One of the things I've not been doing is monitoring the instruments, so you have MEP, sorry, manifold pressure 40 inches for climb, 2,400 RPM. Most importantly, oil pressure, you can see it's in limits. Oil temperature, it's a little high, but it's in limits as well. It's probably exactly where it should be. Fuel pressure, all looking good. What do you think, guys? Amazing, amazing. 165 knots, and we've only got 4,000 feet to go. Rory, love the hands-on flying in this plane. It's absolutely awesome, isn't it, Rory? I've really enjoyed preparing for this sector as well. We'll do some lovely external views as we fly along the coastline as well, so you can see what's going on. I just want to make sure we get nicely leveled at flight level 100 first. Andrew would like an external view. There we go. Nicely, level 165. Beautiful, look at that. Uh-oh, looks like Fly Live's broken. The ETA is going all over the place. Let me just shut that down. Fly Live in Microsoft Flight Simulator sometimes just throws a bit of a wobbly. Reload it shortly. Let me reopen it. You'll probably have to do it a couple of times along the sector. There's 7,000 feet. Check our speed. Maintaining 165 knots. Looking really nice. Getting good FPS as well. Call sign Clipper. Right, hopefully Fly Live will now be showing you a little bit more accurate data without throwing a wobbly everywhere. Matthias, beautiful plane, beautiful scenery. I know. Do some wing views, look. John always makes you want to fly a 150 again. Nice job. This is a whole different beast to a 150. Live weather right now as well in South Africa, just 6 hours behind live time. Oh, thank you very much, Magpie. He's put a cloth face mask. I can't read the comments. Thank you very much. Keeping coronavirus out, Bay. Oh dear. Beautiful. Right, I need to be in the cockpit here. Approaching. 2 to go. Get the aircraft pressurised once we reach flight level 100. Something I should have set up prior to departure. Matthew, next trick for you is learning how to do the engine management yourself. The thing comes into its own with all the new system management. It gives you the chance to do, example, pumping in more oil to keep something else. There you go, there's your next question. The oil temperature down. Yes, that sounds very arduous. What I really love that PMDG have done is give you the option to have a virtual fly engineer. It just means that you could just fly the plane. I mean, I'm going to be using proper instrument navigation today. I mean, it's how it was done in real life. You had a flight engineer to do that sort of thing there. I'm sure the captain was monitoring everything there. I'm sort of monitoring it here with very poor knowledge, but yeah, it's incredible. They've done an amazing job. Amazing job. And what's best of all, I thought it was really reasonable. I think it's really reasonably priced. $60. I was expecting more, if I'm honest. And I think they've got a launch price on. Well, they have got a launch price on $55. So yeah, it's all very reasonable then. Right, so we're approaching our level off flight level of flight level 100. We're only about 1,000 feet per minute, so we're only going to be there at 30 seconds at that rate. So we're just going to start lowering our nose here. You can see just a couple of turns. Look, the rate of climb's now decreased to around 600 feet per minute. And you want to level off. Here's the altitude control, so this is our hold here. You don't want to sort of pass the level and just chuck on altitude control. It gets a bit wobbly, so you want to sort of level off using the climb glide wheel, they call it. Set 0 feet there. It'll do a good job roughly maintaining whatever pitch you set, and then just throw in the altitude control. I'm going to leave it in climb power just until we're level at flight level 100, and then we'll get Jim, our engineer, to set in climb power for us. He'll put the mixture to auto lean, set a reasonable power setting. Will maintain around 220 knots indicated. So approaching now flight level 100. Doing around 100 feet per minute now. Trying to level it off by setting the pitch. There we are. That looks pretty good at flight level 100 with just a slight climb. So let's put in altitude control. On. There we are. Way up. Bit of a dirty dive, but I think it's just just stabilising. You probably feel that, but there we go. And now, Jim, cruise power, please.
Set cruise power, please. Setting cruise power.
There, the bow's going back. 36 inches of manifold pressure. You'll see the RPMs coming back. That increases the BHEP. It's like going, you know, up the gears on your bike. Oh, why is it descending? There, I should further drop the pressure slightly. It's probably the mixture coming in. Now our cruise power sat nicely at 220 knots. Just going to keep an eye on that because we did put the altitude control in at flight level 100. It's just doing a very gentle descent at the moment. There you go. He's still fine tuning the mixture. Very cool.
Cruise checks are complete.
There we are. It's amazing. You know, a lot of management required for these engines, and not having to worry about that. It's great then. So yeah, it just seems to be descending slowly in altitude hold there. So I'm just going to disengage altitude control and just again trim up slightly just to get back up to flight level 100. Didn't do that earlier. So a couple of turns, just let it get back up to the altitude.
Welcome.
Thanks for subscribing, guys. Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Just make sure we're dead level. Engage altitude hold. There we are. Rate of climbs pretty much on 0. Get it closer than that. Altitude control. Ooh, it's doing a bit of a dirty dive when I put altitude control in. There we are. Just keep an eye on it. Where are we going? We need some fine tuning, but yeah, it doesn't seem to want to maintain flight level 100 that well. Keep a close eye on that. Might just have to leave it outside of altitude control, but worked fine earlier. Right, oh, look at this. Look at the lovely view. Actually, a bit of cloud here. Of stratus. Keep an eye on that. What's the temperature outside? Yeah, 0 degrees. So sort of might get a little bit of icing, perhaps. Keep an eye on it. Also watch the icing tutorial. Narrow body long haul. It says Aviliers. I had a mate, said Alexander. Remember that I told you I was having some bugs on my A300 from mini builds? I can't remember, Alexandra. I hope you got them fixed. Rick, can you imagine the fun to be had when we had genuinely shared cockpits? This would be amazing for a shared cockpit experience. One of you managing the engines. It'd be so cool. Right, so let's have a little look at Navigraph, see where we are. So we have it's 161 miles between the two VORs here. If we have a look, there we are, just a sort of sheet. There we are, established on the radial. Tune up the George VOR on box 2, and when we're about halfway, we'll switch over to the George VOR, navigate inbound using that. And then the rest of the routing will take us towards Canada, then Cape Town. Flight time was 1 hour 30. I didn't make a note of the airborne time actually. Right, still just got a very gentle descent here. It seems to have steadied off, but we chucked it in at about flight level 100. Seems to be maintaining around 9.9. We'll keep an eye on it. It just wants to fly like the way I used to fly. My instructor used to say, our flight sim, you're very good at maintaining altitude, but why are you only 50 feet below your altitude? That's what he used to say. HK, what airline's this? Pan Am. A little bit of cloud here though. Ah yes, let's actually pressurise the aircraft. Might go a little bit higher later just to get above this hook. But yes, we've got to set this up here. So what we'll do is set the cabin altitude you'd like. So I went earlier for 4,000 feet. And then you just simply put your flight altitude as well, which is going to be flight level 100. And if you watch this, can you notice on your right hand side you have a vertical speed indicator. That is the vertical speed indicator for the cabin. So that's a good sign now. Now we set the pressurization system. You'll notice the cabin rate of the cabin altitude is decreasing. Here's the cabin altimeter, but the cabin vertical speed is decreasing as well. So you get an altimeter, which is obviously the static sources in the cabin as opposed to outside. And you'll notice as the cabin altitude decreases, the differential pressure will increase. And I set 4,000 feet. Cabin altitude, flight level 100 earlier, and it had about a diff pressure of around, I think it's 3.5 pounds per square inch. So yeah, there's probably a schedule you need to keep to. and it's probably in one of the manuals included, but we'll have a look at that there. We should always read the manual, said Alexander. Yes. But I thought maintaining flight level 100 you should be okay. Should be okay. Plainly go up to 10,100 then re-engage the gyro pilot. That might work out quite nicely. I mean, it's beautifully maintained in this altitude. Awesome. Let's do the outside view. What do you think then, guys? Superb, isn't it? We can have some real adventures in this aircraft for sure. Prater, press B to standardise the altimeter and the out-hole bug will go away. Did I not set standard? I didn't actually set standard. Maybe press B anyway. Ah, okay. But, I mean, it should be referencing to whatever I said, but I'm flying 1013. Surely if I set 1013 and then... That's interesting. It might not be PMDG, because I remember in other flights, in an aircraft we took, the altimeter would... You'd maintain flight level 370, but as the pressure changed in the game, the altimeter would jump, and the automation would change, but it would be a very instantaneous change. And often the same pressure, it wasn't the same, but it shouldn't matter, you know, it should lock on to whatever's set there. But it is beautifully maintaining 10,000 feet now. Plainly, this might be Microsoft Flight Simulator, yes, I have no doubt. I mean, PMDG are not known for making poor quality products. I mean, this is just amazing. Matthew, press B. Microsoft Flight Simulator has a bug that makes it out-hole not work below 18,000 feet when you have standard pressure set. Ah, yes. The 18,000 feet is the transition level in all of the United States, but nowhere else around the world, typically. Justin, it's an MSFS issue there, where cool. Alright, then we'll stay on 1015. There's no one else around here. Look at this scenery. Wow. See where I took the thumbnail for the video in a second. Step climb. Do you want me to step climb, guys, just to get above the clouds? Go up a little bit higher. I've just managed that manually. Look at that. Along the south coast of South Africa. 4D modelling. What GPU are you rubbing? 1080. Whatever it is, NVIDIA GTX. Old. But guys, right now FPS, going to fly live here, it's 60 FPS in the cockpit. It's sort of wiggling around 30, 35. So I don't have the most powerful PC, but it looks all smooth, I should think. Sim settings I've knocked down slightly, so some of it's on high end, some of it's on medium, but sort of compromised by following a video online, and it, you know, it still looks amazing whilst getting good performance from my build. Plainly, Pan Am is such an iconic airline. When I saw that they had the Pan Am livery, I was like, yeah, it had to be this. It's such an iconic brand. Matthew, step descent, got to fly below and see the Earth pass by. Well, true. We'll sit here for a while. With scattered clouds. On the test sectors yesterday, it was cavo-K. It was absolutely beautiful for the entire sector. Bit of rain in Cape Town last night, and right now I've been advised there's a little bit of rain, so we might have a little vote, because YouTube now lets me put polls in chat with regards to, do we keep live weather on for the approach, or do we stay... well, actually, it doesn't look too bad in Cape Town now. It's quite brisk wind from the northwest, just a few... broken at 3,300, so might not see much. I'll let you guys decide what to do. Cabin altitude is still decreasing, which is good. Diff pressure is increasing as well. Stabilised quite nicely earlier on. So what I should do now is, if I fire up Navigraph, tune up the next VOR. So from Port Elizabeth to George, so that is 16.6. Should end up on box 2. Make that active. Well, actually, I think we've lost the... Oh yeah, we're actually no longer tracking outbound from the previous VOR. That's interesting. We've lost it already. That shouldn't be the case. We're about 40 miles away. Well, it's a good job we shouldn't really be in localizer mode. Let's just put it back to gyro pilot mode, because we're technically not tracking any VOR, because it's slaved to nav 1. Let's put 16.6 active on nav 1 then. That's very unusual. we go. Needle's coming around. Let's set the radial one now. So 298. There we are. So we're now established on the 118 radial inbound to George. We should be overhead George in 27 minutes. 97 miles to run. Matthew, must be a terminal VOR with a service volume that small. I know they've actually modelled that. Let me have a look here. Could be Port Elizabeth VOR. I'm just checking on Navigraph. VOR details. No, it's an en route VOR. But whether we're out of its DER, I'm not so sure. Its range, but no, we're only about 40 miles away. Toga, you're flying for a cold front, Captain, that passed through Cape Town yesterday. Very cool. We seem to be just about set on top. We should get a little bit of icing. I did on some of the test sectors as well. If you look at the temperature outside, it's just above freezing. So moist air. At that temperature, you might get a little bit. You should get a little bit of icing. Quasimodo, don't you identify the VOR? We discussed it earlier. You can't hear it with the engines running. They need to be able to, turn the volume up slightly just to show you. Look, if I put the nav ident on, I think I heard it when the engines were running, but with the engines running, you can't turn it off, and the volume's set to 100. So unless there's something I'm missing or unaware about. Icing's all modelled here. You've got heated windows, prop de-icing, you can put a de-icing on for the leading edge devices as well. So vertical stabiliser, horizontal stabiliser, leading edge of the wing. There we are. We're sort of just sat on top. Shannon Lodor says, look at the iPad on the engine monitoring, you'll see the carbs get cold. I've seen it, Shannon, when I enter clouds on the test sector. Let's have a look here. Yeah, look, carburetor temperature's gone cold, but thankfully our flight engineer, let's see if he's done it, does turn on the carb heat. Carb heat's off at the moment, but I think when he notices that the carb temperature is below a certain temperature, or maybe there's some rough running of some sorts, he turns it on. I've seen him turn it on automatically, which is great. It also lowers my workload. I don't have to worry about carb icing. Christopher, is the volume control for the VORs not on the radio itself, not the selector panel? Let's have a look here. It's already set to 100 though. 100 there, 100 down here, which has the phone and speaker option, so it is maxed out, so we just need to, if they can turn it up slightly. So big request from PMDG, ability for the AFE to do a power run, that'd be awesome, or the power checks, turn up the nav aids. It's a very small list, otherwise it's flipping perfect, it's really nice. Oh yeah, look at that. That is amazing. Look at the sun reflecting off the river. Shannon, he did not switch them on. Top left-hand panel. What's that, the nav1 radio or something else? Talking about the carburetor else. There's two carburetor icing I read on the tutorial. They have the conventional one where you can warm air into the carburetor, or there was some sort of alcohol-derived system. Hey, I love the content, thank you. What's that big wheel? Someone was asking. It's the rudder trim. Rick, how do you get the set camera positions like we have in X-Plane? So you can do it. The controls are different though. It's still a little bit clumsy. So in the default view, when you press Control Space, you have full freedom of movement with the mouse. You can rotate all the way around, which is pretty cool. Now, like in X-Plane 11, you can assign views, so like Control 1 in X-Plane 11, but in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you use the command Control-Alt. Don't use the numpad, use the numbers on the top of the keyboard. And I have saved some. So, for example, I've got the EFB, captains, autopilot, navigational controls, radios, low overhead, up overhead. But the problem is with this view, unlike the control space view, the default one, you are limited by your movement. Look, I can't move my head any more than this. It's a real pain. So the pre-saved views, it limits your head movement, which is just a bit annoying. I can't move my mouse any more left or the view any left. Unlike control space, where you can move wherever you want, I use the arrow keys, up, down, left, right, and then I have the comma and the full stop to move my head around. You know, when I switch from one sim to the other, it takes some getting used to, but I'm happy with how I have it set up. Blaney, what's the position of the cowl flaps? Good question, ask Jim. The cruise setting. So, unlike in the climb where you're trying to remove heat, in the cruise you're trying to retain heat, so they're pretty much closed there. Longcat, the top left switches are for the de-icing with the fluid. Is that for the carburetor icing? Now what comes first? Is it the alcohol for the carburetor or the carburetor heat? Pierre Hugo, flying in South Africa, awesome, hope you like it. That stretch of coast is beautiful. It's amazing. That's why I chose this sector. I thought, wow, that'd be really nice. Some more cloud ahead by the looks of it. I really hope it clears up by the time we get to Cape Town. Awesome. Bo Delau, glad to see you back in the skies in real life. Thank you very much, buddy. It's really nice to be back. Promising news in the UK today. It's been sort of rumoured as well that you'll be able to come back from an amber list country if you've been jabbed twice, if you've had both your COVID vaccines, and not have to self-isolate for 10 days, which will be really good for the industry because it is still in tatters unlike the rest of Europe. I think Europe's very slow, but I know in the United States it's pretty much back to normality. My loads on average, I've done 6 flights now. I'm working every day this weekend, so I've got 4 flights coming up in the next week, which is great, and I'm in the sim as well, which is cool. Yeah, the loads are the crap. There's no confidence for people to travel because of that's from in and out of the UK because of the government's handling of this entire pandemic. You know, my partner Mariana, who many of you are well aware of and have heard several times, she's just come back from Portugal to see her family and get her passport renewed, and she's currently having to self-isolate. So she has to self-isolate for 10 days, in the house with me. They have track and trace in the UK, and they're actively checking. They called her up yesterday. Are you at home? Making sure you're following the rules. Because if you leave the house in the 10 days within the 10-day period that you're meant to be self-isolating at home, it's a huge fine, and I think even a suspended prison sentence. It's just not worth it. So yeah, she's stuck in the house, and I'm having to go out, get food and all that sort of stuff. She's been doing a few bits out. She went out today because you have to get a test on the 2nd and 8th day back, so that's the only reason she was allowed to leave. But yeah, absolutely crazy. And hopefully that will end next month. HK, unfortunately I can't watch your landing, so happy to be here. As okay if I post my question in the comments section. HK's flight simulations, of course you can. I try to be as responsive as possible to questions in the comment sections, but feel free to do so after the stream, and I'll get back to you. Thanks, man. And have a good day. 17 minutes then until we get to the George VOR. Haven't really talked about fuel. So we took 50% capacity here, so it's 8 fuel tanks. You have 4 main tanks and 4 auxiliary tanks. There's none in the alternate, I think they call it auxiliary tanks. We have, what's that, the best part of £3,700 in each of the main tanks, and the fuel flow here, what are we doing there, around £600 per hour. So yeah, look, the endurance is huge. We can at least fly for 4 hours. Start thinking about going away. I mean, did this aircraft routinely cross the Atlantic? I think the endurance is huge, huge. Thank you very much to Michael Banaga. Welcome as a member. You've been watching my videos for a very long time. I think we've contacted each other via Facebook. You do FATSIM in the US, I think, or something. So welcome aboard as a member. Glad you've enjoyed the content and finally joined, and you'll get invited to our members only Discord to enjoy using your custom emojis chat if you're into such things. And we'll see you there. Thank you very much, buddy. Brandon, if you weren't back in the skies, you could have come to the States. American Airlines has a 737 pilot shortage that's led to lots of cancellations, but it's crazy, isn't it? Think about last year as well. No such shortages in Europe, that's for sure. John, the strange thing about the isolation is that the person you live with is allowed to go out. It's just not effective quarantine, so what's the point? Absolutely, John. I mean, I double-checked. I was like, can I leave the house? It was like, yeah, absolutely. The person you're living with, if they're self-isolating, after being back from one of the amber list countries, can leave the house. I have to self-isolate, obviously, if she comes back as positive as COVID, but you'd have to do that anyway. And there was another reason as well, I can't remember. But yeah, it's bizarre, John. Doesn't make any sense. Andy H1302, you're doing well, buddy. So Marion is stuck in for 10 days playing Valorant. I bet she's got it. Yeah, exactly. Oscar, knowing what you know about this plane, how much are you looking forward to PMDG 737 for Microsoft Flight Simulator? Well, if it's going to be anything along the lines of this, something we've got to look forward to for sure. That's yeah, very promising, isn't it? Very, very promising. I think there's been a lot of buzz with PMDG's DC6 because obviously everyone knows how high quality their products are. I don't know much about the team. I mean, I have no relationship with them like I do with some of the other developers now. But yeah, I think one of the guys, he flies DC-3s as well, so you know, he's very well placed to help develop this aircraft, which is awesome. So yeah, I'm sure their 737 and future aircraft will be as good as they were on previous sims. It's amazing. Hi Felis, hope you're doing well. Felis, the developer of the 747-200, talking about developers. Hope you're doing well, buddy. A full performance calculation would be easier stuck with V1 calculations. So many dependencies on runway elevation. Felis, if you're trying to make a performance calculator, I mean, Zebo has a landing performance one, which is easier to calculate. But for takeoff performance, yeah, there's so many variables. I mean, every runway is unique. You've got to take the slope into account, and then obviously all the other parameters. You know, air density. So that's calculated by the temperature and pressure, the QNH, your gross weights, your flap setting. Yeah, that's dedicated Felis, but honestly, I wouldn't worry so much about that. If you give us some N1 settings to set, that'd be great. Or at least some tables, maybe you can access some tables. That'd be cool. Hi, it says Bailey's shooting at country wear. Hello. Loving the vids, buddy. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you very much. 48 miles to go, 13 minutes, we'll almost be a third of the way. And once you're sat here in the cruise, I mean, obviously in real life you've got to really keep an eye on these engines. They're high maintenance and you know, nowhere near as reliable as a modern jet engine, but as long as you look after them, I'm sure they'll give you many hours performance. But the beauty of this flight engineer is he's always going to be tinkering with the mixture, making sure it's set to where it wants to be. He'll be adding carburetor heat if you get icing. I'm sure he'll be fine-tuning the power settings as well. As you climb, he also adds power if you use a fixed cloud power setting. So for climb, it's pretty much 40 inches, 2400 RPM. I think they said in one of the tutorials, 165 knots. When you get to about 16,000 feet, you'll have the power fully forward, because you'll have to increase power as you climb. Same at the Seneca. Until you get to about 40 inches, and as you climb further, the manifold pressure will drop. To get more performance, the aircraft is fitted with superchargers. What's that noise? Oh, I know what I've done. Oh, this is really annoying. I've done this so many times. I've accidentally knocked the engine number 1 handle, so I've lost engine number 1, but if you're quick enough, it restarts, thanks to Jim. see, look, the aircraft's just beginning to turn. There we go. It's so easy to do because if you use your scroll wheel on that, it pulls it. There you go, it's restarted. I could guarantee you if you pull that handle, the engine would not restart, thankfully. Thankfully there wasn't that. Whoops. I just heard this faint horn go off, but I did it on the test sector. No idea what I'd done, but yeah, the scroll wheel, if you're over that, it'll pull it. So you've got to be very careful. I've completely forgotten what we were talking about as I failed engine number 1 there. Can't remember. Yes, the aircraft's fitted with superchargers, so that increases the manifold pressure. A supercharger, you know, it's mechanically driven from the engine to increase the manifold pressure artificially. Turbocharger does the same thing, except it uses the waste gate and the exhaust gases to increase the manifold pressure. What do they call it in the States? A blower. But we like to call it supercharger here. So it's in low, and you can move into high, and it'll boost your manifold pressure then. Matthew, always zoom in and out with the mouse pointed out the window. Top tip, thank you, Matthew. Who else here has done that then? I hope I'm not the only one. Cool. 11 minutes till George. Sat here beautifully at 220 knots. Clouds have cleared up nicely. Anthony, good job. Jim skipped the pub last night. Absolutely. Jim's really useful in this aircraft. Shannon, watch out using the superchargers as the cylinder head temperatures rise quickly. I burnt out the engines at 16,000 feet as I did not prepare. Yes. I think it mentions in one of the videos before you engage the superchargers, make sure you decrease your manifold pressure first and bring the power back, because obviously the manifold pressure will jump if you turn the superchargers on. Leo, do you have ATC? No ATC today, no VATSIM. PMDG have reported if you go on multiplayer as well, it can either crash the sim or do something with the DC6, but they're fixing it. There's a patch that's going to come out, no doubt. A few other bug fixes. There's another bug as well, which I had too. If you use the GPS, it can stop the RMI needles pointing towards the VOR. I had that as well, so another reason for using the Benedicts for now. But they've already reported it. They said they're going to fix it. LG Roost Cape Town is awesome in Microsoft Flight Sim. It should look even better because I've got the Orbix Cityscapes pack installed as well. And obviously I think Cape Town is one of the included airports, so it does look very nice. Beautiful. Leo, so you're not flying online? No, not today. Random, hi Captain, good day. What do you think of this aircraft? Is it study level? People don't like this term study level, but I think it's a very accurate rendition of how the DC6 is. Would I recommend it 100%? If you want to be flying classic tube liners, can't get much better than PMDG, so amazing. And it must have, might have knocked out an engine on to doing that. The Total is so much easier to kill an engine in the Airbus than the 737. Yes, in the 737, we have obviously the fire handle, which is mechanically locked, so it's, you know, impossible to pull up, but there's a little button underneath it which you can push in to mechanically override it and pull it. If there is an engine fire or the fire bell's illuminated, it's automatically unlocked, so all you need to do is pull it. Hi Finley, how's the flight going? Hope you're well, buddy. So far so good. We did accidentally shut down engine number 1 about 5 minutes ago from some mouse wheel movement, but I was quick to it, managed to re-engage it, but I'm pretty confident if you pull any of these engine fire handles, you would not be able to get that engine restarted in flight. But I might be wrong with that. Rick, when more in-depth models are released to Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, are you going to remortgage your house to purchase a new PC? You know, some of you very kindly donate, and I never ever ask for donations, but ones that go to PayPal, you know, I have that to purchase some of the things that you guys see. So I usually get aircraft scenery, and that will be also used to get a new PC, which I'm getting next year. And also the members also very kindly for my birthday, well, you sort of whip around and said, "Here you go, boss." I was like, oh, jeez, I was very embarrassed and didn't want to say so. Yeah, new PC is coming at the end of the year. You can see this one's performing fine, but you know, I've knocked the settings down slightly, but you probably can't tell. I mean, I'm hoping it's a very smooth show for you. It's still a very good PC. Quasimodo, so when are you going to do a Super Connie transatlantic? Well, the Constellation, well, this thing definitely go for it. Yeah, that would be, what, 15 hours or something? Robert lived 5 miles due east of Romeo India Victor. Which VOR is that? Is that one of the ones I'm flying over later? Do bear with me, I'm trying to find my routing here. Oh, you're on Robben Island, very cool. We'll be going directly overhead Robben Island. Very cool. Jap, how's navigation going? Using VRs? We are. So yes, if you just tuned in, let's talk a little bit about the navigation. So it's 6 minutes away from George. Let me fire up Navigraph for you as well. Let me just bring up on my other window. There we go. So if I bring up the little aircraft icon. There we are. So you can see we're currently inbound to the George VOR. Whatever that radial was, can't remember exactly. Reciprocal 298. What was that one? Something over there. Oh, I did the math, so I can't remember. Let me try and work it out again in my head. It's 19098. 118 on the 118 radial inbound to George. Once overhead George, we're going to carry on outbound. The next track, so I can't quite see it here. From George to the Caledon VOR is 307. So we're going to turn off localizer to localizer hold mode. Well, I can't remember what it's called now. Just have a look down here. To gyro pilot mode, and you can use the little knob here to turn left and right, which is pretty cool. And then we're just going to set up a heading to fly outbound from George to our next VOR. George is pretty much just before the halfway point, and then we'll be going towards the Caledon VOR. And we're going to be flying directly overhead Cape Town towards the Robben Island VOR. We're going to sort of be a parallel entry into the hold. Instead of doing the parallel entry, what I might do is just, when you're going back towards Beacon, is just maintain that heading to intercept outbound. And this is a rival called the Robben Island 4 Charlie, which we'll brief later. But yes, that's where we are so far, navigating. So we're around 10,000 feet here. Approximately 6,000 feet is 1 nautical mile, so 10,000 feet will be around 1.4 miles or so above the airfield. A little bit of cloud again here, not getting any icing yet. You do see the ice building up on the windscreen. Like I did with the other aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Aviation Boy L4E, where can I find a professional checklist? Don't you worry about that, PMDG has got you covered. It comes with 4 PDF documents, well, at least 4, maybe 5, including a pilot's operating handbook, which is about 300 odd pages. It's enough to keep you busy, and it also contains 2 tutorials as well. Everything you need comes with the product. And PMDG have made an excellent YouTube series as well, which I've been referring to in preparation for this sector. Right, so there is this town actually called George? Someone from South Africa. Was it a Safa? I've never heard of that term before, will tell me. But there is George Airport, the VOR is on that airfield. You know what, I might climb 2,000 feet high just to stay out of this cloud. It's pretty much stuck here at flight level 100. Longcat, your window heat is on the panel over your left shoulder. Yeah, I looked at the icing tutorial as well. Let me try and get this right. So we've got the pitot heat on. It's really simple to use as well. You just set whatever the temperature is outside, so 10 to 0. I mean, I guess that's not on not on in flight routinely, but we don't need it at the moment. The windows haven't iced up. I will use it if it does. LG Roo says, George, you are close to Cape Town now. Yeah, not too far away. We'll be soon halfway. It's not Sofia, no, Anthony. Jap, use the throttle down final approach or the pro flap landing adjustments. I do the pro flap landing adjustments, so I'll try to, Jap. So this aircraft is actually very tricky for descent planning. You know, you need radial engines. You can't just chop the power. You're going to damage the engine. So you come down with a slightly reduced power setting and just let the speed increase. We'll be utilising the AFE to configure the aircraft, but I've got it all planned out. That's why I planned this sector today to sort of, we're going to fly within the confinements of the star, so we're going to obey the altitude restrictions, the MSA, because we're going to be self-positioning onto the arrival. and then once we're visual, we're going to be levelling off at 3,000 feet and bring the speed back very slowly, configure the aircraft downwind, and then fly the ILS. Thanks for subscribing, Sufyan, welcome on board. Ugh, look at this. Yeah, we should be getting a bit of icing at this temperature, just above freezing. I did on all the test sectors. Might just go a little bit higher. It'd be quite cool to see it, that's why I'm sort of sat here. Anyway, we should probably think about navigation first. So we're... yeah, look at that, we're almost over at Georgetown. So 5 miles. Let's now go to gyro pilot. So the aircraft just maintaining the wings level at the moment, and we'll set up the next radial. Radial was from George 294, so we'll go to the OBS, set 294, and you'll see as we fly over the needle swing, 3.6 miles. Can't really see much, or you can look. There is the airfield. I'm not going to chase any needles or anything, just as we get very close now. Just going to let that swing. Port Elizabeth winds are notoriously hectic, I've been hearing, LJ Roos. XX Daniel, why did you pick Boeing instead of Airbus? Well, just because I didn't have much choice really, let's put it that way. But I was very fortunate to get offered 2 jobs when I finished flight training school, albeit 3 or 4 months afterwards. Boeing airline. Thanks for becoming a member, James Cooper. Welcome aboard, buddy. Glad you're enjoying the content. Members only Discord for you, and enjoy using custom emojis and chat. Thanks, buddy. There we are. So watch the needle swing. There we are. Cone of confusion. Right overhead the VOR. There you go. You can see through the cloud. Now we're just going to make... oh, we're already make a slight left turn here. So I'll show you how the turn knob works. Just a couple of turns. You can turn it all the way to left and it'll do a rate 1 turn, 25 degrees angle of bank. But that looks pretty much perfect, and it's also got a little button here which is quite cool to center it. Return to center knob, and then we'll go wings level again. But we're pretty much already on that localizer, on that radial, sorry, so we can engage in localizer mode. There we go, beautiful. Thanks for subscribing, XX Daniel and Dylan. Welcome aboard, guys. Michael or Mikhail, I'm not sure there. How do I get the DC-6 in game for flights in 2020? Go to PMDG, and it's for sale for $55 as a launch price, and I think the usual price is $60. For those of you who are new to simming, that is a very reasonable price for the level of complexity you're getting with this aircraft. Right, I'm sick of being in all this cloud. Should we do a step climb to flight level 120? We've discussed how, yes, it is set to 1015. Now, let me try and remember how to do this. So this is the tricky part. I'm going to firstly turn off the air feed. That gives me control of the throttle. So I go here to cruise, and this is the bit that's a bit tricky because my position on my thrust levers on my joystick are not matched up, so you've got to be very careful here not to damage the engine. So let me just match that up, 35 inches. Ugh. I hope that hasn't damaged it. 35 inches, so back to where we were. Let me just check everything. Alright, it's all green, which is good, but I'm sick of being in this cloud. So we're going to go up to 120 here. So I'm going to turn off altitude control. I'm going to dial in a slight climb. Actually, no, before we do that, I'm going to set the power first. So, out the engineer's off, what I'm going to do here is increase the pitch to 2,400 RPMs. This is the master pitch lever, so I'm just going to dial that up. You can hear the tone change. And then we're going to set 40 inches of manifold pressure. So there's 40 inches. I'm going to dial in some climb with the gyro pilot. So just of turns. I'm not going to go all the way back to 165 knots. I'm just going to climb at 500 feet per minute and just let the aircraft slow down slightly. That should do us quite nicely. There you go. That's how you climb. I think.
50, 40, 30, 20.
Mixture too lean.
10.
Jim, help me. Let's go to auto rich.
Does it come with a JAR livery? Hope you and Mariano are both well.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It was. I'm just going to make sure we don't kill the engines here. Now, how do I turn the mixture lock off? Let's go to auto rich. That's going to keep the cylinder head temperatures within limits. Ah, look, cooling down straight away. Now, if the mixture's too lean, the cylinder's going to get hot. I fixed it. There you are. Look. I'm so happy I managed to work that out myself. Charles, is the plane pressurised? It is. I'll need to fine tune that. Tim Fraser, that was with the £5. Thanks for coming in, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Does it come with chow livery? Hope you and Marianne are both well. It doesn't come with our livery. Shush, Tim. Maybe it does. I don't know what it does. Thank you very much. That was very kind of you there. Open cowl flaps as well. Thank you very much. See, this is where my... I've no experience operating an aircraft like this. You can see the temperatures, the cylinder head temperature increases here. So yes, maybe these should be opened up. So let's put it to climb, and Jim will fix us when we get to flight level 120. So just looking here, oil pressure is fine. Oil temperature is okay. Increased slightly. Fuel flow is obviously increased. RPM's fine where we want it. 2,400 RPM. Cylinder head temperatures again below limits. Looks like we're okay. Ah, looking a little bit more green. Oil temperature's getting a little bit warmer, but yeah. Jim to the rescue. JB, those radials are getting angry. I like it. I know you're going to really, really watch yourself. Update the pressurization panel as well. There. 120. Keep the cabin altitude at 4,000 feet. I think diff pressure was quite high actually. I want to rupture, put a massive hole in. Let's increase the cabin altitude. That will reduce the cabin diff pressure. There you go, 6,000 feet. They'll be able to breathe air from there. Right, where are we? All right, approaching flight level 120. All you can see as we've climbed, because I've not been increasing power, look, the manifold pressure's reduced, so I need to increase power to instead 40 inches. But anyway, we're about to level off here. Thanks everyone for subscribing. We just level off first. Out of 10 guys for my first ever stream with this beast. I think I'm doing okay. Matthew, check cow flap position. Done that one, done that one. Right, let's level off here. Bit too much there, starting descent. Jim will come to the rescue, set cruise power for me, don't you worry about that. Jim, please, cruise. Oh no, a bit of turbulence on for St. Girls.
Set cruise power, please.
Thanks, Jim.
Setting cruise power.
Right, altitude control on. There we are. Climbed up to flight level 120, but that should make a difference. Look, we're now sat on top of the cloud instead of flying in it. There we are, out of the ice. Ah, Jim's going, what have you done, Fly Deck to Sim? Mixtures all over the place, cowl flaps are in the wrong position. Hopefully he'll move the cowl flaps as well, I think he does. Probably want to keep them open a bit longer,
Cruise power is set.
because I've overheated everything. Louis, now you fire the AFE parachute. Sounds like he's clipped the cowl. There you go. Look, he's even put the cowl flaps in the right position. Thanks, man. Guys, if you just tuned in, welcome on board. This is our inaugural stream in the PMDG DC6. We are currently en route from where are we coming from? Port Elizabeth in South Africa to Cape Town. Here we are, just past the halfway point. It's going to be a beautiful approach. IFR flight rules, flying along airways. Going to fly a star as well. Yeah, it's going to be an awesome approach here, and I hope I hope you can see and justify watching me, because I feel really, I've watched the guys, the PMDG guys who made this video, and he's flown these aircraft. I've no
50,
clue.
40,
No
30,
clue. It's
20,
been fun learning about
10.
it. It's been fun learning about it. I hope you're enjoying it. Thanks a lot, James.
Long-term watcher new joiner, winking face, learning the 737 after flying the bus for a while. Friend of yours, my family friend, fellow 73 pilot, came to try my sim last week and he happened to love the bus, ha ha.
I wonder who that is, James. I've got a funny feeling who I think, I might think I know who you're talking about. But James, if you want to get in contact with me, let me know. Please feel free to do so. But thank you very much for your donation, and welcome to the 737, a proper aeroplane compared to the old bus. No, I'm joking. Very cool, and you've got a sim as well. And he happened to love the bus more. Unbelievable. Oh dear. Well, you'll have to convince him otherwise. But thank you very much for your continued support watching the channel and for a lovely contribution. That's very kind. Thank you. Shannon, you'll have to do the cowl flaps. No, it looks like he's done it for me. I had it set to climb and he's moved it to cruise. I didn't do that, so my virtual flight engineer is a hero. Very cool. Rick, wonder if COVID will reintroduce separate throttle quadrants. Yeah, maybe they just put a perspex piece of glass between us. It doesn't matter though, you can both power the engines. Very cool. Oh, sorry about the weather. Enjoying that beautiful Cape Town scenery, South African scenery. Actually, let's just have a little look at the METAR in Cape Town. Are we in for a beautiful approach? Should be okay. Just loading in the latest METAR. I think Microsoft have sort of, say, fixed, but they've improved live weather, so it is a little bit closer to what the METAR's saying, because there was a period a few months back where it was nothing like what the METAR was saying. It's broken at 3,000 feet, 16 degrees, 1015. Okay, well, I quite like to keep live weather on, but I'd also like to see downtown Cape Town and Table Mountain, so we'll see. Broken at 3,000, might be difficult. LJ, how do I download all the proper ground assets? My Cape Town seems a bit blocky. Are you referring to some of the pictures of the one I've seen? Because I do have the Orbex cityscape scenery installed. Could be that. Crewmore, you mentioned you'll do future flights in this aircraft. Will there be an Alpaca livery as well? Loving this aircraft. One of the members is, I think, already making an Alpaca Airways livery. I think if I asked him, he would have got it ready for this stream, but I really wanted to go Pan Am and use the call sign clipper, albeit I'm offline, but Longcat, 2,000 feet lower level VFR sector then. I could drop it down to 2,500 feet, but I want to stay on the star above the MSA until I'm visual to do it properly. Sweet. Guys, what I'm going to do then, I'm just going to take a quick 5-minute break. I'm just going to make sure we're all set up happy. We are flying outbound on that 294 radial from George to Caledon, so just to show you where we are, we're navigating from and to. We're probably around here somewhere. There we are, so going from George towards Canada, so we should be fine flying this radial. I'm just going to have a quick 5-minute break, stretch my legs, and then when we get towards Canada we'll start setting up for our approach to Cape Town. We'll discuss how we're actually going to position ourselves to hopefully see the beautiful scenery. Cool, if you are enjoying the video as ever, don't forget to smash the thumbs up button and subscribe, and I'll be back in about 5 minutes. I'll put you in the outside view. Cheers.
Welcome.
Thanks a lot for that, guys. Just a nice little break, stretch the legs. I just saw a question there, James Cooper, about how do you get into the members Discord. Never seen the functionality. Just simply go to Google, type in YouTube Discord synchronization, follow those steps, and that'll get you in there. It all works through YouTube's membership, so you have to have an active membership for the automatic invite to be generated. Any problems? Tim Fraser's explained it perfectly. Any problems, drop me an email or a message on social media. I'll get you sorted. Right, so let's tune up the next VOR. So we'll probably be approaching the halfway point between George and Caledon.
Well,
Now you'll notice here, if you look at the shape of the VOR here, it is a VOR only, no DME. However, I am getting DME from it in Microsoft Flight Simulator, so we'll take it, it's a bonus. But in reality, it's just a VOR. So we'll tune that 14.9, and also on test sectors, it'll be the same here as well. It is an en route VOR, but the range is very poor. I'm only picking it up about 30 miles away. So we'll get that tuned 14.9 on box 2 first, and then we'll be able to see when it's live because we'll see the needle swing. So 14.9 active. Put it on standby for nav 1. So you can see, look, the RMI has gone level because it's not picked it up. We're at a 16-minute. Oh, sorry, we're 16 minutes away now from the George VOR. I've got 220 knots based off the DME. Nicholas, is your fly live working? No doubt it's frozen. In Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's a bit temperamental, yeah. I can assure you it's frozen. It won't be exactly 999,000 feet. I often have to reset it 3 or 4 times in flight. It's the second time we've had to do it. Works flawlessly in X-Plane 11. But I'm always having to update it here. Right, so I'll do it one more time. If it keeps playing up, I won't use it anymore. So we're going from Port Elizabeth, Cape Town, call sign Clipper. Okay, it should be with you now. There you go. That should now be up to date and working. Thanks, Nicholas Listo, for the heads up. Jonathan, let us know when you want to fly in South Africa, and we'll organise some AT. Thank you very much, Jonathan. I'll be brave to take this aircraft online, but yes, it's been a while since we've been on Flight Simulator. This was definitely one to do offline today for the first ever flight. Brandon, what's everyone's favourite call sign? Alpaca? Actually, Clipper's a wicked call sign. Broadsword, for those who've been here long enough on the channel, know that's the first call sign ever used online. Rick, do you use Track IR? If so, I presume it's difficult to stream with. This is something I've been considering for quite a while, especially when I'm flying some tricky approaches, being able to move the head around. I think I know that some streamers use it, and there's ability if you're using it to disable it when you're just sort of looking around. But the thing is, at the moment, my chat box is to my right, so if I wanted to look at chat, I'd have to be my head right all the time, and I like to try and look at that as often as possible, so I'm still thinking about it. Emma Lou says, fly this across the pond, so we'd have to probably start 10 hours before the event started. Stall Speed RC X-Plane on Flight Sim 2020, genuinely, no word of a lie, I have no brutal preference. X-Plane 11, obviously we know has fantastic handling characteristics for aircraft with its blade element theory. This is obviously, Microsoft Flight Simulator's got up another notch with PMDG coming up and having a realistic aircraft like this. I can assure you Microsoft Flight Simulator will have more better aircraft. Terrible English there. For us to fly in the future. There's obviously a few bugs still with Microsoft Flight Simulator, but yeah, this is great. Really like it, but I'll be using both sims as we move into the future. Tom, so aiming for CDA captains, save some 100 LL, probably almost as much oil. Yes, it does eat oil. I can't remember how much we started off with, but if you look here to the fuel load manager, is it? Or no, it's the ramp manager. It's one of these pages. maintenance manager, how much oil is this in quarts? I think we started with 35, so we're burning through it. Is it quarts? It must be quarts. Well, otherwise, engine health is all good.
Well,
all green look. Engine is very happy, thanks to Jim. Apart from when I took over, and yellows and reds, and all sorts of colours. Yeah, Rick McClure, I think that's a fair assessment of what you said. Welcome aboard Joma B. Hernandez. Johambi. So the distance between these two VORs is 145 nautical miles. We're at 75 now, so pretty much equidistant between the two. It will be quite late till we pick up the second one. If I move the DME, look, you see zeros there. It's a shame we can't hear the idents. Michael, there is a cabin in the plane. Now, someone here will be able to explain to me how to actually access the cabin in this view, because I don't know how the door opens and I'm sort of locked in. I can't move beyond the walls. There is a way of viewing it here. If you use the drone camera, you can actually go in it. It does have a cabin. Textures probably aren't as up to as standards as they are in the cockpit, but then again, you know, I don't think I'm really bothered by that. It looks good enough to me. But I don't actually know how to assign views for this view. I'm in the drone cam, sort of looking through the fuselage, so not that you can hear me say anything now, so I'm outside. Yeah, that Domino most in it. You need to use the drone to fly to the cabin. There you go. Longcat 2020 is beginning to mature now. The plane getting introduced as a real boost for it. I agree. You know, Microsoft and obviously have their own intentions with the sim. It's coming out on Xbox, which is great, and it will obviously bring a different audience to the sim. I just hope they'll also cater for people like us who want to fly as realistically as possible moving forward. Stefan, the old camera CFG trick doesn't work on this one, as the cabin doesn't actually get rendered in. The cockpit view is just empty space. Ah, okay. So that was the only way to get in. Abby, they have assigned views of the cabin in fixed cameras, have they? Because I thought the only ones I had were these ones, the wing views. There you go. Sorry to make you dizzy. Ah, I love that. I love the sun reflection on the aluminium. It's so cool. Welcome, Caleb Penny. Alexander, what's the big wheel near the compass? That's the rudder trim. That's cool. Hello, Southend Aviation, hope you're well. Winner of a recent giveaway, would you consider flying a helicopter for a stream? I'm sure that'd be a laugh. Oh my days. I know there's a free one available for Microsoft Flight Simulator, but X-Men 11, I think you need all the hardware, and I definitely don't have the gear, and I definitely have no idea, but maybe in the future. Greg, do you have plans to fly the fighter jet on Microsoft Flight Simulator where you can take off and land on the aircraft carrier on the game? Maybe, Greg, maybe. I know they're having an add-on, aren't they, or something with Xbox, which is some Top Gun add-on. I don't think it'll be up to the sort of level you'll expect from something like DCS, but it might be a little bit arcadey in that fashion, but yeah, maybe for a bit of fun. Ah, Southend Aviation, you're wearing your Alpaca Airways hoodie now. Amazing. Yeah, did you message me on Instagram? I think I saw it just before the stream. I'll try and get back to you after. Longcat, big trimmers for a manual system with no power assistance. Yeah, that'd be very heavy, no doubt. I mean, I had to use it the other day because the engine failed because I overstressed it, and it actually worked out quite well. As I was saying, someone made a good comment on the YouTube community post. I think these guys, if they'd taken off and one of the engines has failed, they just carry on, or if one of the engines wasn't working so well, they just run it on reduced power and just carry on. You know, I like to keep all the stream PC, but these guys had big, you know what, flying that's for sure. Rosie, are there any Alpaca Airways liveries for flights in 2020, even for the A320NX or something? They are. If you ever want to access any of my liveries, you don't need to be a member at all. If you view any of my previous streams and keep a look on the chat, you'll often see that someone has used the command !livery, and that will open a link for you to access and download the livery for said aircraft. For example, this one, it just says it's the Pan Am livery included with the PMDG DC6. Welcome aboard, Shahid. So 93 miles away from the George VOR now. 25 minutes if we was to fly in that direction. And still waiting to pick up that Caledon VOR. It's quite late, so as soon as that needle starts pointing in this direction, we'll get that tune to nav 1 and get the autopilot to fly that one. The autopilot's slave to nav 1. I think you even have the ability in this aircraft to align the compass manually, or the DJI. You want to keep it in normal though, so it's slave. That way you don't have to keep updating it to the compass. Kevin, how many subs are you up to now, Captain? I have no idea. I think is it 71,800, something like that? Hunter L, can you fly in GOFS? What is that? I have no idea what that is. Emily, will you fly this on VATSIM in the future? Yes, but the thing is, an aircraft like this, if you're flying into busy airports, it's going to be difficult to sort of, you know, be dictated by ATC, because they want you to fly a specific height or expedite descent, something you can't really do that quickly. You've got to be so careful with these radial engines. I mean, VFR, low level, fine, but descent planning especially, you've got to be very careful. So flying stars can potentially be quite tricky. Kevin, when's the next charity stream? Will be at 80,000 subscribers. Are you saying you want me to fly this across the Atlantic for that? 80,000 subscribers, it'll be something to do with 8 hours, no doubt, or something like that, or 8 something. Welcome aboard, Bossman and Nicholas Liss. John says I'm at 72,000 subs according to YouTube. There you go. I can actually see the exact number. I think it rounds it up for you guys, but I can actually see the exact number in my YouTube studio. It is 72,029. There you go, that's the exact number. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. More subscribers, the merrier. I want to get to £100,000, so I get £100,000 subscribers, so you get that awesome YouTube play button. 8 engines B-52. Did I say 8 engines? 8 hours. I'm already losing the plot. It's hard flying this aircraft. Still waiting for that VOR to come alive.
Well.
Yeah, that little bug about Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm glad you told me about that. The actual PMDG autopilot is very solid, albeit a very simple autopilot. Sperry autopilot just basically can hold an attitude or altitude and lock onto a localizer and an ILS. Utilise that initially just to get set up onto ILS 01 we're using today in Cape Town. I'd worry about Microsoft Flight Simulator crashing on an 8-hour stream. I would be too. Just imagine. Tristek. Oh, I didn't actually realise. Is it a free add-on, the F-18? Oh, I thought it was a paid add-on that they'll be bringing to the F-18. Well, yes. No one expects it to be as good as the ones on TCS, of course. But if it's free, then no one can complain. Lucas, may I see an outside view? Absolutely, sir. My drone camera skills. This is using an Xbox controller. welcome aboard Brandon as a member. Glad you're enjoying the content, buddy. You'll get invited to our members-only Discord. Enjoy using your custom modes in chat as well. And as a new member, if you want to get into that Discord, as with the other members, if you are struggling, go to Google, type in YouTube Discord synchronization, follow the steps there, and that'll get you invited in. I do like the drone camera, it's very cool. Look at that. Just like flying a real drone, to be fair. We've got a DJI Phantom, old school original. Absolutely beautiful scenery. You don't need to run the sim on maximum settings. You know. I've got high end and medium for a lot of them here. I'm getting 60 FPS outside and 30 in the cockpit. Very nice. Still waiting. Ah, there we are. So it looks like that VOR has finally come alive. So what we're going to do is go to gyro pilots. I've just accidentally. I just accidentally pulled something else out. What does that do? CO2 discharge? I have no idea what that does. Well, I wish they could make that so it's just a click point and not a rotary mouse wheel button. My days. 14.9 active. There we are. And that's interesting information. Oh, there we go. 29.6, 29.5, that's better. 8 minutes away. Let's just fly direct to the VOR, slightly off the airway there, only by a couple of degrees off the radial. Localizer, there we go. Cool. So, just to show you where we are now. Approaching the Caledon VOR, drifted slightly off the airway because I was still using the radial all the way out from George there at 120 miles odd away. From Caledon, we'll go outbound on the 306 directly to Cape Town. We're very close now. Remember, we'll be flying this arrival. In fact, probably best start briefing this very shortly. So 14.9, I'll get Cape Town on standby box 1 and active on box 2. That's 15.7. So 15.7 on standby, active on box 1. Standby on box 1, active on box 2. Then we'll put Robben Island 17.6 on standby here. Sweet. So we have 1 hour of my needle pointing directly to the active VOR nav 1, the Caledon VOR. Ooh, look at that aircraft descending. And then we've got the second VOR, Cape Town, which is also identified by the looks of it. Looks a little bit cloudy over in Cape Town. I hope that clears up, just so we can enjoy the beautiful scenery. John, does the Logitech radio panel not work in DC6? It does actually. However, I'm not tempting fate because when I used the radio tuning panel, something happened. I don't know whether it was a bug or something with the radio tuning panel. I lost the entire panel. The entire panel stopped working, and so did the radio tuning panel as well. Did that on 2 sectors. So I've actually turned off the radio tuning panel so I can set the frequencies manually because I didn't want anything to go wrong today. Whoa, look at that. That is, you'd feel that. That'll make you feel sick. Up and down. Autopilot does a good job at sort of balancing out. I think that's sort of a bit of maybe a mountain wing maybe off here. I think the wind's coming in from that direction. It is all modelled in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Jonathan, the weather down here in Cape Town is horrible. Oh, you're joking. Is it really? I mean, the METAR isn't so bad, but obviously I know a lot of localised weather isn't there over Table Mountain. It rolls in off there, so the actual METAR isn't so bad. Broken at 3,000. I'm hoping it'd be quite nice to keep live weather in, but we'll see how it is. Maybe I could do a poll. Corner, did you figure out how to pronounce Port Elizabeth's new name? I looked it up on YouTube. It's neat. I didn't. I gave up. I didn't realise it had even changed. I know it was this year because I looked it up because I was looking for Port Elizabeth on a map and I was like, where is it? Renamed. soon as we're overhead Caledon, we'll make a right turn towards Cape Town, and then we'll only be about 15 minutes away, and we'll start talking about our descent planning, what we're going to do when we get there as well. Great to have so many, what was this term, Saffers in chat today. Hope everyone in South Africa is really well. I know I've got a lot of subscribers from there. And corner page has got a click in it. Now someone did say, yeah, it's got a click. No way I'm going to try and pronounce that then. Jonathan, I live just behind Table Mountain and it's a storm. Just give me a general consensus in chat. Would you like me to turn off live weather so you can enjoy seeing Cape Town, the scenery, or keep it in on live weather and try to fly IMC? Let me know. Just a general consensus. If it looks pretty tight, I'll poll it, because I can now generate a poll in YouTube chat, which is pretty cool. May say it's cold at the moment. I mean, ideally, I'd like to be live weather, just because for sort of consistency with the entire flight. But also, it'd be quite nice to see the scenery. I'll do whatever. See whatever you guys say. Ooh, live. Tony says turn it off. If you can't see it, then you can turn it off. Well, yeah, true. Live weather poll. It is a not a dictatorship at Flight Deck Sim. We're in a democratic election here. Off, show the scenery. I should think a lot of the Saffers would like it off. Keep live. I'm getting the idea most people would like it live still. And to be fair, I think I prefer that too. And we can see what's going on when we get a bit closer. Live is more unpredictable, absolutely. Okay, it's definitely live. I don't need to poll that. Greg, I know what you mean, and sometimes people consider it a nuisance, while other times they don't notice the other messages sent, but I'm sure people are interested in your question and the answer given. I think, is that to me, or did someone ask something? I do try very hard to answer as many questions as possible. Let's vote, rigged. Actually, it would be quite good to actually test the poll function in YouTube. Live weather or scenic approach. Show me the scenery. Right, ask your community. Let's try it. I did it on the members only stream this weekend. Right, I've added the poll. It should appear at the top for you to vote, and then we'll see what people say. 35 votes in already. Crazy. Welcome aboard, Nicholas. Liz, thank you very much for joining as a member. Glad you joined the content, buddy. You get invited to our members-only Discord. Enjoy using the custom emojis in chat as well. And, yeah, that's amazing. Thanks, buddy. We're going to maybe again. Maybe, John. Right, approaching the Caledon VOR. Remember, this VOR in real life doesn't have DOE, but we have it. 2 minutes away, 6.4 miles. We're at 12,000 feet, so considering it's pretty much around sea level, it's going to be around 2 nautical miles directly overhead the VOR here. Again, the scenery is getting beautiful. The cumulus here. Live weather is winning at the moment. How many people have voted so far? It's quite cool, isn't it? 120 votes. I think 1 in 5 people watching the stream has decided. In this channel we use monarchy. Tony, poll for which engine to overstress. Anyway, we're about to fly directly overhead the VOR. That's 3.8 nautical miles. So have a look here on Navigraph for you, and then we'll start setting up a briefing for this approach. So have a look, there we are, that pretty much directly overhead. So let's go here to gyro pilot. If we can see it, you can often see them. I reckon, guys, that could be maybe on that bit of land, perhaps, or there on the hill. You can usually see them in the real scenery. Cool. Next heading is going to be 306. Sorry, next radial wind flies 306. What we can even do now is tune up Cape Town on nav 1. We need to obviously identify it, but we can't hear it in the game for some reason. There we are, and we're already on that radial, so we can just simply go back to gyro or localizer. So I'm going to turn right to fly about on the 306.
Welcome.
Well, no, not the 306, sorry. It's going to be the inbound on the reciprocal radial. So 126. Max Marshall wished this game wasn't such a bad flight sim. Hater. It's okay. It's getting much better, that's for sure. Bit of turbulence here, and I should think that's the wind rolling over these mountains with the winds coming in from the north-northeast. Could be a bit of a mountain wave. Now, I'm sure most of you will know what that lake's called. Approaching Cape Town. Where's the pulse at? Live weather 70%. It looks like we'll be keeping it on then. Assembly Bob just got back from a Duke of Edinburgh expedition. Very good, Sibley. I had my silver Duke of Edinburgh, my silver one. Tom, Captain Confirmation Fire searching for information to confirm your preference. Dangerous pilot, you. Very good. Right, anyway, let's start setting up for this approach, guys. So, let me bring up Navigraph for this. Let's talk about what we're going to do. So we're at flight level 120. Now, when it comes to descent planning, you can work out your ground speed, required rate of descent needed and stuff. The beauty of this today is that I want to do a bit of a flyby past Table Mountain. I just want to make sure I'm level at 3,000 feet. Now, on practice sectors, I've worked out timings between all these points. So from here to here, about 4 minutes. Entering the whole parallel entry, another 4 minutes. Here was about 4 minutes. It was around 12 minutes, and we're 12,000 feet. Setting at 500 feet per minute will take 26 miles. So I worked out at flight level 100, if you're directly overhead Cape Town, with that distance, I'll end up at around 3,000 feet downwind by the time I've finished all my manoeuvring. We're a little bit higher now because of the clouds we had earlier, so probably bring that descent back conservatively a few miles before Cape Town. I say I go into video into explaining it. I really don't need to. The PMDG tutorial series is absolutely fantastic from one of the guys that's on the dev team there, and I think he's got experience flying prop liners or what's the one I'm looking for? Rotary engine aircraft. So he's the guy to watch there. He's got some fantastic videos, really nice to have watched. Welcome aboard, Jill 1984. Glad you joined the content. Members only Discord for you. Enjoy using your custom emojis and chats as well. Thank you very much. So if I just get rid of Navigraph for a second, so we are only 11 minutes till we're directly overhead Cape Town International Airport. So what we're going to do is, if I bring up here the Robben Island 4 Charlie, I can overlay it. Which is a really neat trick from Navigraph. We're going to fly outbound from the VOR. And I should have no overlay because it's not so clear. We're going to fly outbound from the VOR on this radial. They actually have a radial here, look, 334 from Cape Town to Robben Island. So I'm actually going to be following that routing here, and that's because there is an airway here. You can see, look, Uniform Alpha 405 towards Robben Island. Now, when I get towards Robben Island, what I'm going to do, now if we were doing this absolutely to the letter properly, you'd need to enter the hold before flying this procedural approach. So if you look here on ILS runway, sorry, Robben 4 Charlie, it's a parallel entry coming in from this angle, so technically the height speed we'll be doing, you go overhead the VOR, outbound on this track 315 for a minute, left turn, inbound to the VOR, and then enter the hold. Now I'm going to be doing this slightly differently. Now, when you're flying under instrument flying rules, you can, in certain situations for certain approaches, position the aircraft by self-manoeuvring to get yourself onto an approach. Important things to be aware of is the MSA. Okay, so long as you're above this height here, 4,600 feet, you can self-manoeuvre above this height and position the aircraft, as long as you've asked ATC, in a position to get you in a good position for the approach. This is what I'm going to be doing. We'll be descending from flight level 120 outbound towards initially Robben Island, and we'll go no lower than 4,600 feet. It'll be a gentle descent throughout that entire period. And what I'm going to do is we'll sort of do a parallel entry. We're going to fly then 315 outbound, set it for a minute, probably a couple of minutes or so, and I'm going to do a 180 degree turn, and instead of going towards the VOR, I'm actually going to fly on that heading, self-manoeuvre, and on that heading of 135 we'll intercept the radial 170 outbound. Now, so long as I don't descend below 4,600 the MSA, I'm fine to manoeuvre. We're probably going to be in cloud throughout this as well. Once we've intercepted the 170 outbound from Robben Island, we'll fly till 12 miles, and ideally I'll be one of two things. Okay, I'm going to maintain either 4,600 feet if I'm in IMC, because I don't want to go lower because we've got Table Mountain here, a lot of terrain. If I become visual at any point, I will continue this descent to 3,000 feet, okay? And then once we're at 12 miles, I'm going to sort of self-vector myself onto the ILS approach. 190 after 12 miles is the magnetic heading to fly, and that's lovely. We'll go down to 3,000 feet eventually. Over here is the sea. If I am still at IMC, I'll probably just maintain 4,600. Then what I'm going to do is fly out to around 15-16 miles, and then turn left to give myself an intercept heading for the ILS. So that's the routing we're going to fly. Now, frequency and courses wise, here is the ILS. I can't tune anything or set any courses yet because I need to fly VORs all the way until that point here. So some things to mention or note then will be the ILS frequency, which will tune 009. MSA we've discussed 4,600 to the west of the airfield, and the platform is 2,000, but I'll either be at 3,000 or 4,600 to intercept the ILS. And that's it. Minimums I'll take a note of, so it'll be at 344 feet. There's no way of setting that, so I'll make a big note of that. And that's with the local QNH set as well. Very long runway here. I'm going to use the reverse thrust, well, what's it called? Reverse thrust, reverse prop angle, and we'll probably make Charlie 1. If not, I might just roll to Echo 1 here. Plenty of runway for a DC-6, and then we'll vacate. So that's it. That's what we're going to do. I'll just show you where we are, flying inbound to Cape Town, and we'll start our descent very shortly. Dwell, holding altitude is 6,100. Yes, but I'm not holding. I'm not going to be holding, so I won't be respecting that. I will be kind of following the parallel entry, but I'm self-positioning there, Dwell Flonker, onto the approach there. But you're quite right. If I was holding, we'd go below that altitude. But that's not the case today. Cool. Let's get that away. And now let's talk about how we're actually going to send this aircraft. Look at that weather, cumulus cloud bubbling through the structures there. Looks really nice. So we only have 7 minutes until we're overhead Cape Town. So how are we going to send this aircraft? Well, thankfully, you've guessed it, Jim here is going to help us manage the engines in the descent here. Now, what he's going to do is reduce the power just slightly. If you take all the power off here, you're going to shock all the engines, you're going to damage them. You've got to be so careful here, utilising the air fee to help us with the descent. So he's going to set the power here. We're going to dial in a rate of descent between 500 and 1,000 feet per minute. And just descend down to 4,600 feet, and that's it. We're just gonna look at that would make you sick. That's all the service on the roof. So yeah, we're going to descend at around 500,000 feet per minute and let the aircraft accelerate. Managing speed is a little bit tricky in the descent here because you want to keep a high power setting. The tutorial says if you need to reduce thrust, you can reduce power all the way down to 60 BMEP. Slowly. I wouldn't want to do that after being in the cruise for a long period of time, but we'll just set the AFE will set the required descent power setting, and we'll just descend, let the aircraft accelerate, probably get up to 230, 240 knots, go from there.
Well,
excellent. So, how's our democratic election gone? I'll end the vote now because we're just about to start descending. I think it comes up in chat. In real life, the Robben Island VOI is broken. Thank goodness, Jonathan. It's only real life, otherwise we couldn't have flown this nice approach here. There we are. 63% for live weather, 36% for show me the scenery, 265 votes in total. Beautiful. That's quite a cool feature added by YouTube. There we are. We're almost overhead the airport. It really buffeted around now. Look at this. It's very, very violent. Fusion, have you heard about the new FS Realistic add-on that's coming to Microsoft Flights in 2020? It's the same people that made XP Realistic for X-Plane. Not really interested in that sort of thing, Fusion. I think Microsoft Flight Simulator by default is pretty stunning. And for X-Plane 11, I'm not really, I tried to keep it as vanilla as possible. Right, anyway, I think I can see Cape Town ahead. We are 4 minutes away from being overhead the airport. Let's see if we can see that over the nose. I think that's it there under the cloud. And if you look ahead, there is Table Mountain, Cape Town downtown, and there is Robben Island, which is where we'll be flying towards in a second here. I think, at least in the game, the weather could be fine in live weather conditions looking outside. We'll take it. Poll turnout 44%, like a real general election. Not a great turnout. Thanks for subscribing, FJBH101. Adam, is Dutch roll a major factor in this aircraft? I doubt it. Aircraft like this are very stable, straight wing, low speed design. I don't think you'll have issues with Dutch roll. The handling characteristics of slow flight are great. That's the design of a straight wing, a swept wing aircraft like the 737. It doesn't generate as much lift at low speed, which is why we have those massive high lift devices, leading edge and trailing edge flaps, to create the lift we need to make sure we can fly slower. But then again, this sort of aircraft design, when you get to higher speeds, not so efficient. Swept wing better at higher Mach numbers, with span-wise flow and the way the airflow flows over the wing. With straight wing here, going all ATPL here. As lift's created, the agreed theory, the Bernoulli's theory in the air, accelerates over the top of the wing and slows down, meets the airflow at the rear of the wing. As you go faster, that speed can go supersonic, which creates drag, wave drag. On a swept wing design, the span-wise flow less likely to happen, so you go Mach numbers. I think so. This is all very old school ATPL knowledge I'm digging out from somewhere in the back of my brain.
Welcome.
Anyway, how are we doing? Almost overhand the airport.
Welcome.
Well, loads of subscribers coming in here. Andrew, have you tried any turbulence with this plane? We've got plenty, that's for sure. Welcome, Ufol, Ale, Endocab.
Welcome.
2 minutes, I reckon, guys. We're going to start our descent now. Let's get down. You're all ready. So, if we can click descent.
26 inches, please.
It's going to set 26 inches of manifold pressure. There he goes. Going to turn off altitude control and just dial in
26 inches.
a couple of clicks
Descent checkpoints, please.
and descend around 500 feet per minute.
Altimeters and flight instruments cross-checked.
And that's it.
Seatbelt signs on.
Don't want to be taking too much more power off because you'll shock all the engines, damage everything.
Engine blower is
There
low.
we are, 500 feet per minute. Just let the aircraft accelerate with that
DC-6
lower power
on.
setting. There is Cape Town, ladies and gentlemen. Orbeck cityscapes. You can already see some of the landmarks coming in. Almost directly overhead Cape Town Airport. We'll be landing on runway 01 in around 15 minutes. Top of descent chats. You see the RPM's increased as well. Let's tune in 17.6. Excellent. Feel I was broken in real life, but not in the game, thankfully. Or the simulator. I'll upset people by saying that. Let's go to gyro pilot. And 17.6 coming active. What's the radial we need? The radial is 335. Reciprocal of that at least 135. So we've got the 155 radial dialed in. There we are. On that heading, we'll intercept it. There we are. Maintaining what's that, 200 knots in descent. Looking good. Well, live weather's good enough in the sim at least. I know it doesn't look exactly like this, I think, from our friends around Cape Town, but it looks amazing at least in the sim. Right, so we'll engage now. Localizer. Right turn now, inbound to Robben Island. We overhead Robben Island in 6 minutes approximately. Look at that, guys. I just really been looking forward to flying back to Cape Town as well in South Africa. I've never been, but I've got some family that have been here. They say it's amazing. And when I was planning this flight, I sort of stitched a routing together. I was like, how can I fly DC-6 close to the city? Because I want to fly IMC. I sort of built this approach, sort of flying under IFR rules as realistically as possible. It works really nicely. Cowl flaps closed. Yeah, pretty much. I'm going to again let the AFE manage all that. It does seem to. Look at that. Well, live weather on it is. Didn't matter. Hoaxster's excellent drink. Did you hear me drinking? I forgot to turn the mic off. Sorry about that. Now, obviously, the cityscape scenery is going to be stunning, but you have to be much closer for it to kind of load in. It's still above 10,000 feet here. So again, just to show you where we are. On the Uniform Alpha 405 airway still. About to Robben Island. Remember, we're not entering the hold, so we don't have to abide to that holding altitude. We're self-positioning. Because we're above the MSA, we can still manoeuvre the aircraft 6,100 feet. Sort of a parallel. I'm going to do the parallel entry into the hold, but not actually enter the hold. I'm just going to do a 180-degree turn. Put me on a nice intercept heading for that outbound radial on the Robben Island 4 Charlie arrival, which is 170. There you go. I'll keep that chart up to reference later. So I'll just increase that rate of descent ever so slightly. A bit higher than I wanted to be at this point. There is Robben Island. This is where Nelson Mandela was locked up for, how many years was it? 25? Over 25 years. Captain, is this ship pressurised? It is pressurised. You can see here is the pressurisation controls. Sorry, cabin altitude is... no, yeah, that's right. That's a little over 1,000 feet. 4 psi difference descending. So, 2 minutes until we get overhead Robben Island visual. Look at that. 27 years. Incredible. I remember reading about the man. Incredible. $12 Lonken then wasn't personal. But I just want to make sure people can understand it's something that we can do in real life, you know. If we're above the MSA, we can self-position. Very rarely that you have to, because usually the approach that you're flying, the procedural approach, will put you where you want to be, or you're in the vectors. But sometimes you can might need to self-position. One of the things you must remember is, my operator, at night time, below the MSA, self-positioning is prohibited. So you've got to be very careful. And you know, you can do it in IMC as long as you abide by the MSA. Don't go below it. Right. Anyway, approaching Robben Island. Oh, I think that's a little bug in the sim. Did you just see the altimeter climbing? I think that was just Microsoft Flight Simulator doing its thing. So again, we're going to go to gyro pilot now, because we're going to use the turn function to turn left onto a heading of 315, sort of a parallel entry. Yeah, so just waiting for that needle swing. We'd start a timer. If you're entering the hold, it'd be a minute on the outbound leg. But in an aircraft like this, I found that if you only go outbound for a minute and then make your turn, you're not going to be intercepting the inbound course. You'll be just flying directly to the VOR. But a minute is the correct time below 14,000 feet. There we are, getting ready for that needle swing. And as soon as that's there, we're going to crank in a little bit of a turn. Now if you rotate this all the way to the left, it'll do a 25-degree angular bank, which is what we want. Pretty much there. There we go, code of confusion, so dialing it in. I want to go on a heading of 315 for a minute. And I'll just turn that back to centre once we're approximately on 315. That should do us. And then push the return to centre knob. There we are. So again, if I bring up Navograph just to show you where we are. There we are. So we're on this sort of, we're doing it. This would be a parallel entry for the hold, but we're not going to enter that hold. Remember, I'm going to do a 180-degree turn and then intercept that radial outbound. I'm going to go outbound. What's our height? I want to go out here a little bit longer than I planned because I descended. I did start descent a little bit late. I want to get down to around 6,000 feet or so. I'm happy to go to 3,000 now because with visual, it'll be quite cool to go 3,000 feet and fly along the town, the city. So I'm just going to delay that turn. If I was entering the hold, a minute and then round we'd go to enter the hold then. Wilhelm, I don't discuss my operator's airline or aircraft order. I will be flying a MAX in the future, Wilhelm. Thanks for your understanding on that one. Usual disclaimer, I have to say it because so many people are interested. Airline I work for is well aware what I do. They give me full permission. Even my head of training has seen my videos and finds them very amusing. But I just choose as a personal choice not to discuss my operator in case you've perhaps travelled them and might have had an experience which you want to complain about or even maybe praise about. But I'm not the person you want to be talking to. Thank you, plainly. 3,000 feet past the waterfront, that's the plan, Robert, but I'm a little bit high. So I'm going to fly outbound for quite a bit here. So I want to be outbound on the 315. I'm about 305 there, so I should turn right a little bit here. And increase that rate of descent further. Go down to 1,000. It's fine, you can just let the speed, you can just let the aircraft accelerate. In fact, if I can get 1,000 feet per minute in, that's fine. That's going to be good. Quite far out now. It's Robben Island. Yeah, I've not been tracking outbound very well. I'm on the 305, I should be on the 315, but dragging that tail around. So we'll get down to 6,000. And I'll start the turn in the opposite direction. No CDAs in this bad boy, but gotta fly right over Cape Town, haven't we, at 3,000 feet? Oscar, do you ever tell an FO that you watch your streams? Not usually. A lot of them recognise my voice. There we are, that's 1,000 feet. The aircraft's accelerating. I think V&E's 300 knots. So we're not going to get anywhere near that. Now I'm going to do that 180 degree turn. We only have 3,000 feet to go. Start reducing that turn there. So we'll dial in a heading. So it wasn't that great tracking the radial there. Let's bring up Navigraph. Let me just click in. There you go. So I should have been there really. So what I'm going to do is a 180 degree turn just to intercept that radial on the arrival. Robin 4 Charlie. So 170 will be the next radial. So I go on a heading of 135, same as the inbound course. Or I might just do it visually. Would be grand. In fact, you know what? I might fly the entire thing visually. So when we level off at 3,000 feet, get a little bit closer to the airport, we can go to the in range, which will further reduce the power, and it'll allow you to extend the flaps on this aircraft. So long as you're below 175 knots, you can extend flaps through 0 to 30 all the way if you so wish. Landing weight is our gross weight at the moment. It is 78,000 pounds. Is there a way of changing that to kilos, please? Probably is, I don't know. 78,000 pounds. Still getting used to the views in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I miss you, X-Plane, for that. Where's the pre-saved views? There we go. Oh, that was hard. It's got 80,000 pounds. Landing weight approaches 131 knots, but you're over 101. So by the time I get over the threshold, about 105 knots. Keep an eye on my heading, so we're heading back towards Robin. I was too busy trying to look at the... I want to be on a heading of 135 here. Heading back towards the island there. So we're going to go 135. Approaching 4,000 feet, that's great. There's 130, so I'll start rolling wings level. And to auto centre now. Excellent, and heading straight towards Cape Town, look. Brandon, thanks for dividing by 2.2. 35.4 tons. It's heavy, actually. I mean, it's not that far off an MT-737, it's about 45 tons. Approaching 3,000 feet then, I'm pretty happy with that turn. I wanted to be at 3,000 feet here. I'm guessing live weather isn't quite as live as we were expecting, but what the heck, do we mind? No. Oh, one thing I forgot to do, set the QNH. But with Microsoft Flight Simulator's dodgy QNH at the moment, I'll press B, there we go. That's set the local setting at least in the game. Aim for the stadium, Okay, I think this heading is perfect. If you look there, it'll look a lot clearer when we get closer. Approaching 3,500 feet. So again, we know the MSA is 4,600. We're not in IMC, so we're visual. I'm sort of self-positioning now. You know, we're VFR. All looking good. Howard, love your streams, pal. Thank you very much, buddy. 500 feet to go. Be there in a minute. Look at that, right over Cape Town. Just imagine. I should think half of our Safa friends would look up at this great sight if this aircraft was flying over today. Guys, if you are enjoying the stream so far, don't forget to smash the thumbs up button as well. I'm loving it. I'm loving this aircraft. I hope I've justified it. It's amazing add-on, really. It's winter here, yeah? Yeah, it'll be dark, of course, now. Yeah, I'm running the sim 6 hours behind live time. So, again, ready to level off. Use the climb glide wheel as it's named to level off here. Now as soon as we're level, guys, we'll go outside views. Oh, quick. I'm chucking altitude control now. I know you should wait until you're level. I hope it'll manage it. There we go, and we'll just let the speed come back. Good evening, Cape Town. Look at that. And massive thank you to Orbex for their Cityscapes add-on. Gives you all these extra buildings and add-ons, making it more realistic. S-speed will be slowly coming back at the moment. Simply Bob, is the aircraft worth it? Absolutely. Very fairly priced. There's tabletop mount. Why do I keep calling it tabletop mounted? Table mounted. You can even see, look, the oh, I can't zoom in. The cable car. I think that comes with Orbex Cityscapes. There we go. Amazing. Oh, look at that. What do you think, guys? Whoa, what a shot. I should have done that as my thumbnail for the video. Beautiful. I hope all my South African friends at least enjoyed this. We've got one more very important job to do. Let's get this aircraft on the ground safely. Alright, I've been flying completely visually. What was that radial we're meant to intercept? 170. Oh, we're right on that 170 radial now, so we'll turn here. Let's have a look at Navgraph. I just opened it up. There we are. Right, okay. Well, we're enjoying the scenery there. We'll get rid of Navgraph. We're going to be flying purely visually now. We're at 3,000 feet, and I'm actually going to probably bring a little bit more power off. Oh, actually, I don't need to do that. I can AFE it in range.
Cooling turbine. Normal.
So roll out the heading of 190.
Booster pumps. On low.
So the fuel boost pumps on.
Fuel tank selectors.
There's heading
Mains
190.
on, hydraulic bypass valve. Down.
And we're downwind for runway 01.
On. In-range checks complete.
So one of the things you can do here, if you need to further slow down, but it looks like the aircraft's doing it anyway, I just want to get below 175 knots. Once I'm below that speed, I can start reducing power. Now, it mentions in the tutorial you can set 90 BMEP, and that will slowly bring the speed back, and as soon as you're below 175 knots, start extending the flaps to 20. Once you're at flap 20, you can then actually run the landing checks from the AFE, and he'll continue configuring the gear, the flap, the gear, and the rest of the engines and controls. Right, just need to change that heading. Heading towards the airport will be at least on 190, so a couple of degrees to the right. Lost a few FPS there, guys. Sorry about that. I'm going to shut off fly live now. Happy with where we are. Beautiful. That's better. So just checking that speed. So 180 knots. Can bring the power back further if I so wish, but I think we'll just let it trickle back to 175 on its own. As soon as it's there, I can select the first flap setting, flap 10. Start switch is continuous, very good. Louis, you never need more power in approach. DC6 likes to be low and slow, that's why I'm using the AFE. And the guides, oh, I just love that view. Oh, we better tune the ILS actually. That'll help. 110.3. He was too busy enjoying the view outside. .103. 1103. Final approach course is just looking at the chart here. 009. Now, you don't need to set it. The indications for a localizer would be the same, but just to sort of give you a picture of the compass rose and what the heading is required, it will be 009. But the indications for a localizer will be the same. Right, speed is it's like 176 knots. 90 PMEP. I might just select it at your flops. Should be just okay. Yeah, there's 175. Right, it should be 175 or less. It's going to go now to flaps 10. That will bring a bit of drag, help the aircraft slow down. There we are. We should now have the DME. We do, 8.3. Probably go out to around 15 miles before we turn base. John, can we do an auto land? Negative. And you have all the flat placard speeds here. Look, he says from flaps 0 to 30. As long as you're below 174 knots, you're fine. So we'll take another Natcher flops. That's 165 knots. Still have no controls of the throttles. That's being managed by the automatic flight engineer. But on final, when you select after landing, it does give you control of the engines. We actually have a glide slip indication there. We do. Look, there's the glide path going up. One last run to the onboard buffet. Absolutely J-Bay. I should think the people travelling on the Clipper, you know, back in the day would be eating on very high quality fine foods. That's for sure. Landing lights, Simley Bob, they'll do that. So I'm going to keep the flaps where they are. The power setting is beautifully holding the speed where I want it to be, around 150 knots. Fine at this stage here. That's 12 miles. I'll give myself another Natcher flops, in fact, actually. Give myself a little bit of a base leg. So, turning left. Beautiful. So we're heading around 100 degrees. That'll be a 90-degree base leg. See the airport from here, I don't think, guys. It's off to the left. There it is. Oh, where are we going? Right. I think that was my fault. I don't think you should put this return to centre button in straight away like that. We'll give ourselves a nice little intercept heading now, though. Carry on turning left. Just going around. What's the QDM? 009. So if we go on around 055, that'll work out nicely for an intercept. Speed's beautifully at 135 knots now. That's good for an intercept heading, so we'll roll wings level now. Auto centre. And I'm going to arm, well, I won't arm the localizer straight away. I'm going to just wait till that localizer comes alive. Pushing that head onto the runway QDM, or the final approach track, which is 009, so when the head of that is on, it's only on 020, then we'll be on final. Line slip's coming in nicely. I'm going to go to, we're already at flap 20, sorry, so as soon as we've got the localizer captured, I'm going to run the landing checklist. Just staring at that localizer at the moment, guys. I just not so sharp because we're approaching the intercept point here. Just a tight angle. Just there comes the localizer, so what I'm going to go is wings level localizer. The aircraft's now going to turn left to intercept the localizer for us. And we're about 1 dot below the glide slope.
40, 30.
Thanks a lot, Timothy
20,
Handy.
10.
What was that?
No, in not.
Oh dear, well, thanks for that donation. So far, so good. Nothing inoperative, nothing broken. We've survived. Well, let's wait until we're on the ground first. There's 1 dot on the glide slope, so let's run the AFE before landing checklist. Flaps at 20, so they're already set. Get ready to turn off altitude controls. We can set the glide slope.
Mixtures rich, please. Auto rich.
So he's moving them from auto lean to auto rich.
Mixture set. Gear up and down, please. Gear up and down.
So he's lowering the gear now. Beautiful. Alright, glide slope's coming in now, so we want to turn off altitude control. As soon as I'm on the glide slope, I'll engage approach.
Gear down and locked. 3 degrees. Props. 2400 RPM.
Approach engaged, and the aircraft's now going to slowly descend onto the glide slope.
2400 RPM set.
So he's increased the RPM,
Plus 3 degrees.
opened up the cowl flaps.
ADI. ADI off. ADI is off. Landing lights. Speed good. Extending lights.
It's extending the landing lights.
Lights extended and on. Carbine.
Isn't it cheating? Not really, Simley Bob.
Before landing checks complete.
There was an engineer on the real aircraft. Oh, there we are. So I've now taken control of the engines. Just want to select another natch of flops. I want to keep that speed, that approach speed on that table. What was that? 100 and... what was it? 80 times. 131 knots. I want to be flying around 130 on final, which we are. So speed's coming a little bit too far back. So smoothly add that power a little bit too quickly. And we're going to maintain 130 knots until around 1,000 feet or so. Then we'll start bringing the speed back to the approach speed. Now the landing technique, a little bit different than DC-6 to 737. You don't want to flare at 30 feet or 20 feet or so. You essentially fly the airplane onto the runway 10 feet, bring the nose up slightly, and then slowly reduce the power back. Don't just close them aggressively, otherwise you're going to damage these engines. Right, final approach speed is set. We've got flaps to 30. I'm going to go flaps to 40 now. I have to add a little bit of power, and then once landing is assured, we can go full flaps, flap 50. Just again adding a little bit of power because of that extra drag from flap 30. Very good. And we're now on a 7-mile final. Airing's a lot slower, a lot calmer in the DC-6. Landing checklist is complete. A little external view. There we are, down the aisle as we go. What a shot. Absolutely stunning. Runway 1, 01 Doug, North America. Anthony, the engineer, was really necessary on these. They discovered that when the airlines began operating the DC-4 with no flight engineer after the war, they had a crew chief during the war who was like a flight engineer. Yeah, definitely. You know, I'm so glad PMDG have that. It really is. And I mean, even if you learn all of the quirks of operating these engines, it's still going to be extremely challenging to do this single pilot on, say, VATSIM or something like that, to manage each individual engine as well. So, you know, you utilise that AFE. Is it cheating? Not really at all. You'd be there in real life. There we are. So, nicely at 130 knots. And approaching 1,500 feet. Minimums around about 344 feet on the minimums. So around here, about 1,000 feet to go. Brandon Butler will go around landing. If I completely screw up, we'll go around, but yeah, that's something I'm not read up on, and again, careful engine management required for that. What do you think, guys? I think it's awesome. I can't wait to fly again. It won't be too long, I don't think, until we do, because I'll forget everything I've learned the past 48 hours. Right, I'm happy that landing's assured. I'm going to go flap 50. Start bringing that speed back now to our VREF. 105, that's what we want to be doing over the threshold. John, I would give my right arm to be in the cockpit when in real life you always got front action flops. Brilliant. Flap 50, landing checklist complete. Jim has been brilliant today, hasn't he? Let's see what we can do. Shall we disconnect the autopilot, ladies and gentlemen? Disconnect the gyro pilot. School's out. Mechanical clutch disconnected, and it's now my controls. So I'm going to give myself that view, which is sort of like a seat up view. That's perfect. See the speed, 105 knots. Rate descends about 500 feet per minute. Keep this power setting in all the way until touchdown. Just realised I've got music on still. There we go. That's better. So 3 reds. Just pitch up slightly. Press that rate of descent, add a bit of power because speed's just come back a little bit. There we are, 105 knots plugged in. Keep it descending. It's looking really nice on that picture. I'll try and select reverse prop on the landing rollout as well.
50.
Oh,
40,
terrible timing.
30. 20.
Thank you very much.
10.
Thank you very much, James Cooper. I forgot to mute it. I'll play it as soon as I've landed. Thanks a lot, buddy. Right, speed's a little bit high there. Distracted by that generosity. 110 knots. 2 whites, 2 reds. Over the threshold, so keep it descending. Don't do anything yet. Wait till about 10 feet. Raise the nose. Slowly reduce power. Oh, we're down. That has to be a butter. That would be. Right, reverses. Reverse pitch selected, and then add a bit of power. There we are. No, not using any brakes. About 20 inches there, I'm not sure of the exact power setting. There's 60 knots, and I'm going to go now to idle. There's the click. And there we are, back to normal. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cape Town. What a flight. What a butter. What an aircraft. Well done, PMDG. Amazing. My goodness, to whoever that was, give me 2 seconds, James Cooper. My apologies. What I usually do on the approach is mute the alerts. I was so busy, I completely missed that. So let me re-blurb it. There we
50,
go.
40. 30. 20. 10.
Very kind of you. There's the shaking coming back in.
Landing with plenty of time for a snack and beer before kickoff.
James Cooper, I timed this stream perfectly for that occasion. I, of course, will be putting on my England shirt. I do have my circa 2002 England shirt, believe it or not, and I'll be watching the game against the Czech Republic. Perfect timing, with about an hour to go. Amazing. Thank you so much, James Cooper. That was very, very kind of you. Right, so now we're vacated on the taxiway. We can get the AFE to do the cleanup. So after landing flow, he's going to retract the flaps, flick some other switches, get the
50,
AP started.
40. 30. 20. 10.
Grad main covered. Is that from Red Dead Redemption? Thanks, Tim Fraser.
Nailed it. Thumbs up.
Thank you very much, buddy. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed that stream. Very happy with how it went. You know I've not flown range-engined aircraft before, and my level of knowledge on this aircraft is not high at all, but yeah, I've tried to do a bit of research, and I hope you've enjoyed my take on it using my experience as a modern-day airline pilot and learned something. I'm quite rewarded by the experience, especially doing conventional navigation. The engines are all running, nothing's blown up. I'm happy with how it all went as well. Amazing. Right, putting on to stand then. I don't know if the air bridge will connect. It'd be pretty cool if it did. Don't know how to get it to do it in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't think this is a default airport as well either. I think it's like a high quality one. Right, anyway, parking brake can now be set. There we go. And parking checklist. And the aircraft will be shut down by the AFE as well. So mixtures to ICO. Idle cut off. That's engine number 1, 3. No, sorry, 3, 4. Number 1, we'll go outside for the last engine. Number 2. Two blues, 1 red, you've got it.
50.
Amazing. Let's
40,
jump into the cockpit as well.
30. 20.
Still configuring the aircraft. Thank you very much, Steve Mayer.
Well done, boss. Excellent as per usual.
Thank you so much, Steve. Glad you enjoyed it as well. One of the longest members on the channel. Turning the radios off, looking at everything. Glad you enjoyed it as well, buddy. And thank you so much for the continued support. I hope you and Mrs. May are doing very well. No, Microsoft, I don't care about that. There we are. It just said shutdown checklist complete, and there you are. It's completely cold and dark, ready for you to leave the aircraft. And yeah, well, there you go. Amazing. I'm so happy we made it. God, I spent the whole day yesterday preparing for this stream, and it went perfectly. Oops. Well, it went perfectly right up to the point where I put the left wing right into the air bridge. Move along. But there we are, there's the PMDG DC6. Beautiful, isn't it? Ooh, a little bit beyond where we should have parked as well. What an aircraft as well. PMDG DC6 there, available for $55, I think is the launch price. And if it's still available at that price, $60 will be the normal full price for it. I think it's very fairly priced. Unbelievably, you know, first time I've done a live stream in the PMDG. I mean, my channel was born off the PMDG NGX and my initial tutorials. They've obviously hit the ball out the park bringing this to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Yeah, looking forward to flying it again for sure. So yeah, God, when's the 737 coming? Send me a copy early, please. We'll see. Awesome stuff. Well, guys, as ever, thank you everyone for watching. I'll have a little read of the comments section here, or the chat here on the approach, because it was rather busy. Lots of butter emojis, fantastic. It's very good to see. John Padfield predicted Flora Light. He certainly got Lurpak or some other butter branded landing. CP, how's the FPS? Not too bad. Did drop off a little bit on the approach, but for my specs, pretty happy with the performance I'm getting there. Leo, I don't hope England lose. Well, it doesn't matter if we lose tonight. We are through, but it'll be good morale for us to win, because the first game against Croatia wasn't that great. Against Scotland, we're pretty rubbish. I'm not a huge football follower, but I do love the Euros and welcome you keep up with it there. But best of luck to England and Scotland tonight as well, to my compatriots and friends in this country. Unlucky, good luck, I guess, Czech Republic, and who is it? Scotland playing? Croatia, of course. Yes, good luck. That's all I'll say on that. Awesome stuff. I think we're all good here. Scott Irvine, replay. I know there's some replay add-ons. I know I've not been using them because I know Microsoft Flight Simulator talks about bringing them there in the future. So if you really would like me to get an add-on for it, I'll consider it as well, because it would be quite cool to watch it as well. But yeah, I hope you really enjoyed the stream. Will I fly this again soon? I'd like to fly it again within the next 4 weeks. We'll probably do some other content on X-Men 11 in the mod and some other streams, some VATSIM events. But I'll keep this close to heart and find a nice sector. Maybe we'll venture on VATSIM on it if I get a little bit more confident. But guys, hope you enjoyed it. As ever, if you could thumbs up the video, if we get over 500 likes before the end, that would be really cool. And subscribe if you'd like to stay up to date with the latest content. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you on another live stream very soon. Bye bye for now.
Welcome.